Hello and welcome to Cinema to the Letter. This episode's that atypical film known as Fantastic Mr. Fox. On Cinema to the Letter, we break down the very nature of cinema, letter by letter. For each episode of a season topic, we cover 6 films that fit as C for classic, I for indie, N for new, E for egregious, M for masterpiece, and A for atypical. Use and love an acronym, am I right? I am Thomas, and before I can start the podcast, I gotta do my signal.
Hello, I am Bryan, and Thomas, are you cussing with me? Because I'll cuss right back, okay?
Look, you're cussing with me. Okay, we can't start this off on such a wrong foot.
We
Brian.
can't
be cussing back and forth at each other. No, we gotta wait a little bit till we start cussing. But we're not the only ones that are gonna be cussing here tonight because we have a special guest returning to the show after a couple years here. But if you're a patron, you've heard him probably many times over on Marco Polo and Adult Swim podcast, where he is my co-host, Torrey Depina. Torrey, welcome back to the main feed.
Hi, and I definitely don't weigh less than a slice of bread.
Really, who can live to those beauty standards, you know?
Absolutely.
I wanted to have you on for the animation season, because we are at the finale of our animation season, our A for atypical choice that we usually love ending a season on. And, you know, the people who've listened to Marco Polo have definitely heard you talk about animation a lot, but for people on the main feed, why don't you go a little bit into, like, what your general love of animation, how that started, and then specifically, I want to hear your thoughts on stop motion, which is the big animation subject du jour for the evening with Fantastic Mr. Fox, our subject.
I've loved animation, I guess, since I was a kid. It's just always, I just caught my attention. Maybe it's an ADHD thing. Maybe it's like, oh, pretty colors. But just like the art in general has always been something I've loved. As far as stop motion is concerned, it's unfathomable to me, I guess, because I don't know. I would probably lose my fucking mind if I actually lose my cussin mind. I already screwed up already. Anyways, lose my cussin mind doing like 17 days of work for like 10 seconds of animation, which is it's just the work that goes into that. It's beyond admirable as someone who has like zero talent in the arts. So when it comes to like the whole stop motion, whether it's like movies like the one we're talking about tonight, Isle of Dogs, Coraline, Nightmare Before Christmas, et cetera, et cetera. It's just like the work that goes into it, and just the result of said work has just always been a visual experience going to like my childhood to, now as a grown ass man. So, yeah, it's just, in short, I love it. And it's cussing amazing.
Very cussing amazing indeed. Yeah, Bryan, we were very adamant about, like, we wanted to cover a stop motion movie for the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you've said many times on the show that, like, animation in general to you is like a weird dark magic. You're not aware how it happens, basically. That it's just this weird thing that somehow pops on the screen. But do you feel even more that way about stop motion specifically?
Yeah, animation, like, again, as much as I have seen, like, behind the scenes footage of how, hand-drawn animation is done and computer animation is done, like, especially stop motion. I remember learning as a kid, like, what claymation was, like classic claymation, and just finding out, like, the thing you said, Tori, of like, you do work for like 2 weeks and it's like 5 seconds. And I just remember thinking, like, that sounds insane. That sounds like a job for crazy people. Like, how do you even, how the fuck do you even do that? How the cuss do you even do that? And especially, like, with a lot of, like, modern stop motion, like the Leica stuff, like the movie we're talking about today, that is so, like, big and is doing a lot. I just find it so insane that anything like this gets done. And impressive more than anything. I think, like, as we'll talk about today, this movie has a lot of things that appeal to me, but like the tactile nature of stop motion is what I've always loved. You know, like obviously The Night Before Christmas, like just kind of the style is very appealing, and it's odd looking, you know, especially the Henry Selick films. Like it's kind of creepy looking in that way where you're like, whoa, this is really different. This is really weird. But it all feels so tactile. It's the thing that I think gets lost in a lot of like 3D animation, is that kind of like tactility of like, you want to just reach out and like touch these movies. And yeah, it is just so impressive. Like I watched a lot of, like, one of my favorite stop motion movies that we're not covering is Kubo and the Two Strings, and just watching like behind the scenes footage of that. That movie has like huge sequences, and you're just like, how did anyone do this? This is insane. Yeah, and especially for someone like Wes Anderson, who has a very particular style and a very quick kind of style and a quick sense of storytelling. Like, it's even more impressive, I think, that this movie and is able to be made in this way.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about stop motion in particular is usually like that kind of the handcrafted nature, like you're talking about. The fact that you can see like the little imprints of people's fingerprints on like the various different characters. I think that's something that in modern stop motion has been a bit lost, as you kind of have like 3D printing and like the ability to kind of like switch out heads and stuff. It feels a bit more cold to me. Like, I love the Leica movies usually, but I do feel like that's kind of missing a bit from like the Leica stuff in general, because like I grew up with a lot of stuff like the Aardman movies in particular, like Chicken Run, Wallace and Gromit, all that stuff. I like loved how that felt, you know, kind of gooey, kind of like the characters could almost like melt at any moment, but that's part of the charm of it. And even like Will Vinton, I talked about previously on the season, stuff like that. I feel like that kind of tactility has been kind of missing as this process has been streamlined. Like, even if you go all the way back to like Willis O'Brien's stuff on the King Kong original movie, and you see that it's just like this creature feels like alive, even though it's like janky and has like the stop motion kind of like, you know, weird kind of motion blur elements of it. It still like feels so much more real than even like something that's like on a 2D cell, despite how much we've talked about that style of animation, how much we love it. It just has this like different kind of effect. And even like the Rankin Bass specials as well, which I grew up with a lot, like the old Rankin Bass, like Rudolph and for, you know, that The Year Without Santa Claus, stuff like that. I kind of miss that element of it. Do you feel like the Leica movies have kind of, you know, streamlined it a bit too much to a certain extent, Brian?
I mean, I no, I see what you mean about the, like, seeing the prints and seeing the kind of like, you feel a bit more distance from the human touch in the Leica movies. But the thing with stop motion is like, it is an industry that is like kind of dying, and it is so hard to make these movies, and it takes so much time, and in a society that really values like quick profit and quick turnaround, and you know, it is something that I agree, like, there is something that gets lost, but those movies make up for it by still having, like, especially Kubo, like a scale.
Yes.
Or just kind of a, like, I mean, I love like Paranorman for just how many like fun like zombies and monsters there are in those movies. So like there is something like that, I think, but it is still just something that I will always kind of cherish, because it could just disappear, and I feel like there's so few people in the world who can do it, both like literally can do it, but also have the like just the patience and the kind of like care for it, that yeah, like it really, in any sense, I value it, but I do see what you mean though.
Yeah, I think that some of that still lives on, like, obviously, the, like, Mad God from a couple years ago, which is, like, so grimy, and is so, like, the antithesis of, like, the more streamlined Leica stuff, or even, like, Marcelo Shell's Shoes On, I think, has a bit of that quality, or even there's the recent horror movie Stop Motion, which is literally about, like, a stop-motion animator going crazy, which feels maybe autobiographical. has that kind of like a bit of that nastiness. Even Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio,
Yes.
which you recommended recently on the show, and also has some animation from the late Mark Gustafsson, who tragically passed away fairly recently. That Pinocchio still has a bit of that kind of tactility. I don't know. Do you have a line on this, Tori, or you're just like doesn't matter? It's stop motion.
Yeah, it pretty much doesn't matter. It's stop motion to me. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
I would say like because I think the Pinocchio movie has the same animator or one of the same animators that worked on this film. So I actually just finished watching a bunch of like behind the scenes stuff right before I got on here. Her name was Kim Kukuleri. She's known as Kim Kong, and
Okay.
she is like someone who was like hands on. Like she was actually the part of the behind the scenes I was watching, and being bothered by Bill Murray, of course. It's Bill Murray, Wes Anderson, and she's there, and it's the scene after they get washed out by the apple cider when they're in the sewage system,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when she was talking about specifically where I mentioned that earlier. That she did like 18 seconds, I believe, and it was about 8 days for her to do that, and it's just her. And she worked on Frankenweenie, and I believe she also worked on the recent
Mm-hmm.
Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio film,
Mm-hmm.
and she loves it. You wouldn't think nothing doesn't seem to drive her nuts at all. It's just doing what she loves, and it's just amazing that the talent, just from her alone, and the team that worked on this just brought to life with this whole movie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe.
but I should just say it's just stop motiony and stuff like that. I don't want to disrespect what they do. If
No. No.
anything,
No. Yeah.
I'm in
No.
awe of anything. So, but yeah,
I will say though, you mentioned Frankenweenie, Tori. Like, I don't even like that movie that much, but it's still so impressive that, like, anytime stop motion is done, like, I am kind of amazed by it from a craft perspective, even in a movie that is not very good in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That like just the again, it's because it's so difficult, and especially today, it's so difficult to do. Um, that I am always kind of impressed by it in any kind of way.
some of the weaker films, you might not even be a huge fan of. Like, I'm not. I actually never seen the Frankenweenie remake. I've only seen the original, but I guess for like Burton's case, I'm not a big Corpse Bride fan. But
Yeah.
it's
Same,
kind of
yeah.
it's kind of like it's like you can't say that there was no labor of love. You might not like the movie,
Right,
but it's not
yeah.
like if you watch like a bad, crappy comedy, it's like, oh, this is half-assed. Like, what was the art really, other than poop jokes? Here, it's like, the movie's not great, but like, holy shit, like the
Yeah,
amount
yeah.
of I did it again. Holy cuss. The amount of work that went into it, to where it's not necessarily, I mean, you're grading it on a curve at that point. You're not giving it a pass necessarily, but you have to acknowledge the work that was put into it, even if the storytelling isn't the greatest in the world.
Yeah, like something like it's not a full stop motion movie, but a lot of it is featured in Monkey Bone, the Henry Selick film. Even as bad as that movie is, and that movie sucks so much ass. Monkey Bone himself is an incredible creation, and it's so stunning to see him, even if he is John Turturro just being a sexual deviant monkey to like so many people. It still is like at least it's like we mentioned. It still is like it's a great magic trick to see, and the Tim Burton note is very interesting because while he did have like like the Vincent Short and other like early stop motion stuff, he's an example of like when a director kind of is like, oh, I can do the stop motion thing, even though I'm more of a live action director, and it just doesn't really compute. There's something kind of missing there. Versus what we have with this movie with Wes Anderson, who gets his mostly known for live action, obviously, and this is his first attempt at a stop motion movie. And I think it's one of those great examples, like something I talk about with like, oh, when someone who's not a horror filmmaker makes a horror movie, when a live action director makes an animated movie, I find that very fascinating, and especially can tell like when somebody's like suited to kind of like make that kind of transfer over. And yeah, I think Anderson is a great example of that because if you're at all a fan of Wes Anderson, you know that guy likes making the kind of like very intricate kind of dollhouse thing with real human beings, and it translates perfectly to stop motion. So I want to at least get off animation for a bit and talk a bit about Wes Anderson, our histories with him, because obviously big filmmaker. We're finally covering one of his movies. Tori, I'm very curious. What's your general history with like the Wes Anderson movies? Are you a fan of his work?
Oh, absolutely. I actually have a big gap in the 2010s right now that I'm gonna be deep diving soon when it comes to like a lot of his movies because I've seen the majority of his early work. Rushmore, The Royal
Hmm.
Tenenbaums. I was like, I want to say I was like 10 or 11 when I saw The Royal Tenenbaums for the first time because we had illegal cable. So I was able to, I think man, I think like 01, 02, I saw that movie so many cussing times. It's ridiculous. And it was just like this really emotional, but like also very funny, kind of like offbeat, indie-ish kind of humor. Um, and since then, I remember at one point being a kid being really disappointed that I was not ever going to see the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou in theaters because I don't know, my parents didn't want to take me to it, and it was never at the theaters that were local. It was always at all the art theaters that were like maybe like an hour away from where I was living. His work is just I don't think I've ever had a film where I've hated of his, to be honest, even though there's probably films that people do hate. People hate Life Aquatic. I guess people hate Life, not Life, Isle of Dogs, which is weird to me since I love the hell out of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I haven't touched on like why people don't like that one, but I've always had something to take away from every one of his movies, and I've never felt like I've wasted my time. I never had that experience with a Wes Anderson film.
Yeah, and Brian, your history with Anderson.
I mean, I love him. I feel like when you're getting into movies, he's one of these directors. When you find out like what the auteur theory is, you're like, that's what an auteur is, because all his movies have a visual style, and I think all his movies, even like the couple that I don't like, the one I really don't love, even though I've only seen it once, is the Darjeeling Limited.
Hmm.
Fighting words.
I've only seen it once. I do
I'm
want to
kidding.
revisit it. I
You're going to be
do.
having some more fights with people in the second Torrey.
I'm really frustrated with the way people talk about him. Like Thomas, you and I were talking about this after we saw his latest movie a couple of months ago, The Phoenician Scheme, where
Hmm.
I find that most people who talk about him really kind of boil him down to just his visuals. Like, oh, everything's symmetrical. He loves like corduroy, and he has all this like these perfectly created worlds and all this stuff. And I think that really kind of dilutes both like the darkness in his movies. Like his movies are really dark at times, and also really dilutes like what he's getting at. And we'll talk about it more as we get into this movie. But I find his movies so rich and so complex, and there's a lot more going on than just he has like really cute, amazing production design that is like perfect and symmetrical and whatever. And I still, I think he's also on a run as of late with sort of post pandemic run of The French Dispatch, Asteroid City, which is maybe his best movie if I'm really thinking about it, the Netflix shorts, and The Phoenician Scheme, which I have really still been thinking about. I still have. I want to revisit that movie because that's the thing about him. His movies are so quick and they're so zippy. They move so fast that you kind of like you can watch them over and over and over again and find rich details and little nuggets and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of his, even though I do find the way a lot of people talk about his movies a bit frustrating. But he is just a master filmmaker. I'm so fascinated by everything he does, and he really checks a lot of my boxes as well, as we'll talk about with the miniatures and the all the stuff in his movies just really appeals to me specifically.
What was the first one you saw of his?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was the Grand Budapest Hotel, which is my
Hmm.
favorite of his movies, I think. And I saw that in theaters, and I was just like, it fucking blew my mind. I was just like, wow, I didn't know that a movie could do this. It's the first time you encounter his style. You're just like overwhelmed by everything, and yeah.
Yeah, I remember I had a similar story to Tori in that I saw Royal Tenenbaums first on Comedy Central of all places. It was so insane. Like I remember very distinctly watching that. I think it was like as a double feature thing with like Zoolander, just because Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, very similar movies. Really, Ben Stiller has a
What a
similar
combo.
artistic direction. Uh, but yeah, I remember like seeing that movie on Comedy Central of all places and feeling like this is different from any movie I've ever seen. This does not feel like a typical, like especially seeing like Owen Wilson or Gene Hackman, even Angelica Houston. This particular Danny Glover, who I knew from like the Lethal Weapon movies and shit. Just like in this particular atmosphere, I was just like, this is so specific and so peculiar, but I'm really drawn to it. And from there, I watched like Rushmore and Life Aquatic and all of this stuff, and I've been a fan pretty much ever since then. I remember having a similar like the frustration you were mentioning, Tori, of like, oh, his movie isn't coming around here. I had that so deeply with this movie, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I remember this is the first Anderson I was really anticipating. I was like, finally, it's gonna be here. I can't wait to fucking see it. And could never see it in the theater, just never came by.
Which is funny because this was actually the first Wes Anderson movie I got to see in theaters.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Wow,
So-
just these crazy, crazy. By the way, I should also mention that a very special moment for me was I went to South by Southwest in 2014 and saw the world premiere of Grand Budapest Hotel with Anderson in attendance along with Jason Schwartzman. They went up on a Q&A afterward. I was like in the third row. I saw that man's fucking corduroy
I was gonna
ass
say, what was he
suit.
wearing? Just like shorts and like a
I was
t-shirt.
wearing- just his uniform, his like cartoon like outfit basically of just like the corduroy suit that's orangey and it was just very like soft spoken and all that. But yeah, I agree with you so much, Brian. Like the whole public perception, like Wes Anderson, he does the same thing over and over again. One, I don't really agree with that. Even with like, I have some Andersons I prefer to others. Like, Darjeeling is also my least favorite. I'm not a huge fan of Isle of Dogs. I'll get into it.
Let's get him, Tori.
I knew it would end this way somehow. But yeah, that whole idea was just like, oh, he's doing the same thing over and over again. I don't agree with that. I think there's been an evolution of his style. Like, I think Grand Budapest Hotel and Royal Tenenbaums are a very kind of different. Like, the way he's kind of upped the craft of, like, really just, like, creating these, like, weird, kind of, like, very specific ideas that, like, have, like, some stylistic similarities, like you're mentioning, kind of. Like, for me, that kind of, like, auteur thing was Tim Burton. But then,
Sure,
like,
yeah.
more slightly more mainstream. But Anderson felt like an interesting kind of different perspective, especially as like I was growing less interested in Tim Burton movies. Somebody like a Wes Anderson, even though they're not extremely similar filmmakers, still has this like distinct style that I really latched onto. And also, even if it's just like, oh, he's doing the Wes Anderson thing, it's like, guys, no one else is doing that.
Yeah, and people try.
Yeah, people have tried and failed spectacularly. I think Jared Hess is like a big example for me of that. Someone who feels inspired by Anderson, but just feels like he has like the more of the kind of Ohio thing as opposed to Wes Anderson more like Northeast kind of like version of that. It just yeah,
It's like a
I
mud
think-
hole somewhere in like fucking Utah or whatever, or some
Yeah,
crappy
yeah, yeah.
rural town in Utah. That's Jared Hess, except also it's not funny and it sucks.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
if you want to see it as like, oh, he's just doing the same thing over and over again, it's like, why can't we have that? Why is it like something that we need to like down cry? Even with like, I didn't love the Phoenician scheme, but I really liked it, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm down to see like Anderson do any of that shit. He has such a great track record where even within like the perception often is like, oh, he makes these kind of cold movies that star these like very upper class white people that are just like it's impenetrable and all that other shit. His movies are so inherently about like very human ideas of like failure, regret, massive like insecurities about your own abilities and whatnot. Just the trappings, I think, make people lose sight of the fact that he's like a very emotional, engaged director, even if he has a style that can be kind of like dry and a bit more like the humor in particular, like very zippy and stuff like that. There's still a lot of heart in all of his movies, and I think particularly Fantastic Mr. Fox has a wonderful heart to it.
I would say actually, just not to go down the hole of Wes Anderson. Anybody ever see Bottle Rocket? Because I actually have that on DVD, and I think that's a
Yeah.
really good debut.
Yeah,
I think it's fun. I wish there was more Wes Anderson films where it was Owen and Luke Wilson as like a duo together, just because they have that brotherly chemistry. And
That is
kind of
true.
sad. Kind of sad we don't get that or get that again. Really.
No,
Um,
no, yeah. Owen will pop up like he pops up here in Grand Budapest, but yeah, they've really diverged. That's also just weird. Where like Owen Wilson is an Oscar nominee for, I believe, Royal Tenenbaums and Rushmore, I think, because he has a co-writing credit on those screenplays,
yeah.
and he's never written anything else. And I'm just like, I would be so curious to see him and Anderson maybe collaborate again on something, because now it's like what Roman Coppola is usually his co-writer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like a few more points on Anderson. Like, he is one of these directors who is so emblematic of what a director is, who has like these consistent themes that he returns to, consistent ideas that are on his mind and in all his movies. And he also has the troupe, the growing and growing group of actors who just love working with him. And it's huge, like, especially in the Phoenician Scheme, Asteroid City, and the Roald Dahl shorts. Like, he has just assembled this massive troupe of actors, big actors like Tom Hanks, like huge A-list actors who will work with him because I don't know, like, yeah, there is something kind of fascinating about him. And last thing I'll say about him is that, like, he's also becoming more and more interested in, like, the very nature of storytelling, and kind of leads with that in stuff like Asteroid City, with the kind of like story within a story within a story. Grand Budapest has that. Like,
Yep.
I think that that's so fascinating that he sees himself as a storyteller.
But it's not like a pretension about it, like that whole like I'm not a director, I'm a storyteller. Not in that kind of way. Much more in the way of like, well, people tell stories all the time, and there's like I love it in fucking Grand Budapest Hotel, where it's just like it's a turducken kind of thing, where it's like this is a book that somebody's reading about, that somebody wrote after they encountered somebody at a hotel
Yeah.
who was telling them the story. All these kind of elements that like it's more about stories like pass along to people, and that there is this kind of interesting you get out of hearing about someone's past and what their entire life's about. And even in this case, with like adapting a Roald Dahl story with Fantastic Mr. Fox, it's very much about like, oh, somebody who like loved reading like children's books like this as a kid, and wanting to like translate that in a cinematic form. I think is yeah, it's something that I think few other, especially like animated films that are adapting like classic stories, are able to do. Just look at like the complete total contrast is like when CG studios have tried to do like Dr. Seuss books, like the Lorax. I think one of the most despicable fucking things that's ever happened. Or it's just like, oh, let's take this original story and completely corporatize in the shittiest way. Anderson's not about that at all. Whether this or the Roald Dahl shorts, which Torrey, I would definitely recommend if you love like the Andersons, you have some blind spots. Asteroid City and the Netflix Roald Dahl shorts, the Wonderful World of Henry Sugar, is great stuff. I think you'd love both of those.
So good.
Yeah, the last thing I've actually seen was I saw French Dispatch in theaters when it came out in 2021. I haven't, and then actually I got two major ones. I still haven't seen Moonrise Kingdom or Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, I said the only one I've seen in the 2010s has been I guess Fantastic Mr. Fox counts, but I think that was like '09.
that was '09, yeah.
Yeah, that was '09. That was right before. And I've seen, French Dispatch, and I saw Isle of Dogs. But yeah, like I said, I got some little gaps there. Oh, and Asteroid City too. So, and I do want to see the Phoenician Scheme. So I got some adventuring to do.
I'm so jealous that you get to see those movies for the first time, Tori.
That is true. It is, yeah. And like, I know I said one more thing, but I got one more thing. A thing about him as well, like with this run he's been on, like he's been really prolific. And I just think it's amazing that he still gets to work, because he's a very specific director with a very specific style, and we've seen a lot of studios just not be interested in doing that lately. And I think it's amazing that he gets to consistently, every couple of years now, he just makes a new movie, and it's just like it's kind of amazing. I'm just always really happy that he kind of has been really into working these past few years.
Yeah, it's also interesting how a lot of that is because he's attached himself to interesting producers. Like, there's the whole story about Polly Platt, the great, woman behind a lot of great movies of the 70s and 80s. When she was working with James L. Brooks, had seen, like, the Bottle Rocket short and was like, hey, this guy seems interesting. Maybe you should, like, talk with him and get this, see if he has, like, a project he's interested in. And that's how that movie happened. And then He also had a history with Scott Rudin, you know.
Chill guy.
Yeah, a very chill, calm,
Very
normal guy
chill guy.
who didn't throw phones at people at all.
Absolutely. Still working to this day.
Yeah, and thankfully not as frequently in the film industry necessarily. But he was like a big champion for Wes Anderson for a bit. I think he's attached to this movie and a lot of his other ones. And then now I think he's like is it the guy who is doing the Neon stuff that's like funding it basically? Because I know Phoenician Scheme was like a Neon production, but I know there's like some producer who's like been his like go-to for a while. That's like basically like funding his stuff. And it's like, sure, man. Keep fucking doing it. Like, be a real patron of the arts and support Wes Anderson, whoever you are.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but let's go ahead and jump into our movie for the evening. Our subject, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
The country's most fantastic critics are raving. Fantastic Mr. Fox is beyond fantastic. It's the best animated film of the year. Woo! And maybe the best film, period.
Okay.
This is actually kind of a big deal, so don't just say, okay.
Okay.
Newsweek raves. Wes Anderson's animated Mr. Fox melts into Roald Dahl's story like butter on toast. The New Yorker declares, it's dazzling. The movie is a wonder.
You're practically glowing. Maybe it's the lighting.
Rolling Stone hails, it's groundbreaking. An adventure in pure imagination.
Pensez-vous que l'hiver sera rude?
I'm asking if he thinks we're in for a hard winter.
5 stars. Entertainment Weekly gives it an A. It's a holiday comedy that's a marvelous toy box of a movie.
Do you get how incredible this is?
George Clooney.
Will you join me?
Meryl Streep.
You really are a quote-unquote fantastic fox.
I try.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Rated PG. Now playing everywhere for everyone.
So, Fantastic Mr. Fox came out on November 13th, 2009, written by both Anderson and Noah Baumbach, future Academy Award nominee Noah Baumbach, adapted from the Roald Dahl novel of the same name. Did anyone grow up with the Roald Dahl, either this book or any of the other ones?
No, not really. Yeah, and like I don't think I've ever read a Roald Dahl book. I didn't grow up with them really. I mainly know it obviously through his film adaptation, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and of course Anderson's movies. But yeah, I didn't grow up watching. Did you guys?
No, I never read the books. Never was read the books as a kid. It wasn't. I didn't know about the book until the movie was. The movie came out, was starting to get promoted, trailers and all that.
Yeah, I read a couple of the books when I was a kid. Mainly, like I was introduced through like the film adaptations, like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the biggest one probably, which I saw as a kid. And I was like, I got to read this book. And the book's obviously very different. His film adaptations kind of tend to soften some of the edges of Dahl with like if you read like the twits or the witches in particular, there's a lot of like kind of a nastiness that's a bit more present in his books that isn't usually in the film adaptations as much. And I think sometimes for the better. I mean, I have my big Criterion edition of Fantastic Mr. Fox, and one of the special features is just an audiobook of the book that's read by Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
You can just listen to the whole, which I did earlier today. It's only like 53 minutes long, the actual reading of it. But it's interesting how there's just certain things that like are very adapted, like so closely from the book, but also certain things like basically the book is the middle chunk of this movie, where like Bogus, Bunsen, Bean are trying to destroy the tree, all the way through to like the big feast that everybody has at the end. It's that kind of chunk of time. And there's, like, obviously a lot more development and stuff. Particularly, there's not as much of, like, the insecure Mr. Fox kind of angle of things. You know, they're like, oh, I'm stealing, but, like, I and my wife doesn't want me to. That whole element is not in the story necessarily. But certain bits, like, even when Badger comes up during, like, that sequence where it's, like, after all the homes have been destroyed, he says the whole, like, oh, I've been, like, going around the hole for, like, 3 days, basically, in circles. Like, that line is exactly similar from the book, but they add the context of, like, hey, asshole, you killed so many cussin animals around here, and I've been going around for, like, 3 days and stuff like that. So, it's interesting how he adapts stuff like that, but then also removes other things. And I'm kind of glad, like, a big thing with Roald Dahl is, like, his characters are so nasty on both a figurative and literal level. Like, there's a bit, and when, like, Bogus, Bunsen, Bean in the book are talking about, oh, let's get that fox, where, like, Bogus, I believe, he just described as, like, he puts his finger up his nose and picks it and is talking about like we're gonna catch him and we're gonna destroy the tree and all this other stuff. And it's like, I'm kind of glad that that's not in there. All respect to Roald Dahl's vision, I guess, but I'm kind of glad certain things are not there.
It is interesting though, because what I know about Roald Dahl is that kind of nastiness, that very British kind of ugliness.
Yeah.
And it is interesting though, what I was reading the booklet, which has an essay, by I think Erica Wagner is her name, and one of the things she talks about is there's a detail that what Anderson adds that is kind of nasty. Where is it Bean who wears the Mr. Fox's tie, tail as a tie, and apparently that is Anderson added that. And that is kind of nasty and kind of oh my god, these guys are fucking evil. And it is interesting, what he chooses to add, but how he kind of wants to retain that ugliness and adds a little bit of that as well.
By the way, I believe that's Bean is the one voiced by Michael Gambon in this
Yes.
film. A wonderful voiceover performance. But yeah, so Fantastic Mr. Fox, I described earlier my kind of history where I was very excited for this movie to come out. And I wanted to see it in a theater desperately. I was in high school at the time, but I still didn't have... I only had a learner's permit, so I needed a car to be able to do that. But every time I looked up times, it just wouldn't come around. It's weird. I think Anderson has traveled a lot more recently as, that's around the time where, he's not quite as much of a brand, quote-unquote, as I think he is post, Grand Budapest and Moonrise Kingdom. Moonrise Kingdom was the first one I saw in the theater, and I remember feeling this one actually drew a massive crowd. And I feel from Moonrise onward, he's become much more of accessible. He's niche, but at the same time, he's gained a bit more of a following. So I wanted to see it in theaters, didn't get a chance to. Ended up catching it later, as I did many movies. Once again, rented it off of iTunes, put it on my 160 gig iPod, and then hooked that up to the TV with the red, white, and yellow connectors, and loved it so dearly. But Torrey, you were mentioning this is the first one you saw in the theater.
Yep. They actually had a big enough release to where the set of cinemas we used to have around Providence, Rhode Island, where I used to live, called the Showcase Cinemas. They used to have a bunch of them, and we were about 5 or 10 minutes late because I don't know what happened, but the minute we got into the theater, that was right when the trap falls on them. And then it cuts through, and I was like, oh man, I hope we didn't miss much. But it was only the first 3-4 minutes. It was actually funny. We had an incident where the actual projector shut down in the midst of watching it. And I think it was right when the farmers are having their first conversation about, fox troubles. So, fun little, weird experience, but yeah, regardless, we still had fun. The movie's great. As far as it's the film itself, it is one of my favorite animated films ever. Might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie. Might be the one that I have the most fun watching. It might be the most fun Wes Anderson movie. As far as from everything, the cast is perfect, the pacing's perfect. There's nothing that feels rushed, even though the film is only 86 minutes long at best, maybe 89 minutes. There's nothing where you're you don't feel like you're missing anything, and there's no fat to trim whatsoever. And just the comedic timing is amazing. And also one of the things that always stuck with me was the Jarvis Cocker character, with his
Petey.
little with his do fucking song where
Torrey, did you just make that up as you went along? We're in a bad song, Torrey.
he's like, what was this? What kind of songwriting is this, PT?
That's just bad songwriting.
I was just kind of making it up as I went along. Yeah. You wrote a bad. It's just mad, just Dumbledore getting pissed off at. Oh, I actually didn't realize. I found that out as I was going through the Wikipedia that it was another cast member from Harry Potter that was in it. She played Aunt Polly in Peaky Blinders, and she plays Michael Gammon's character. I think is it Bean's wife, the one who can't see without her glasses or whatever. Has
Yeah,
like
but
very
Helen
bad.
McCrory. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. She was also
Oh, yeah.
The late Helen McCrory.
Mhm.
Didn't know that actually. It was like this cast is like it's a very wide cast. Some problematic people
Yeah.
are in it too.
Well, that's true, but also just one of my favorite examples of this is he's in a couple of Wes Anderson movies, but Wallace Wolodarski, who he's like in Grand Budapest and this and French Dispatch. That guy is primarily a writer. Like he wrote on the first couple seasons of The Simpsons. Like he has,
wow.
he wrote Krusty Gets Busted, the first Treehouse of Horror. He has he's much more known as like a comedy writer, but he just
Produced
has,
the
like,
Oblogs.
yeah, and he plays the possum here in this movie. It's just like a perfect quiet little voice. And just like I don't know, man. Like, just he finds weird people that do voices.
Yeah, like
It's
and
so good.
Yeah.
they do great performances too. Because I swear, for the longest time, I thought he was the guy who voiced Melissa's dad in home movies because he sounds just like him. I know they're not the
Yeah.
same guy, but they got the same kind of vocal stylings or whatever.
Mhm.
But I was just like, it's such a I don't know. It's such an these aren't like half of this cast aren't even like really like voice acting like that. Some of these people had it as like their only project, like Wes Anderson's brother voicing Christopherson. Like that's his
Mhm.
one role. He hasn't done anything since then.
Yeah.
You got this is the problematic one, Mario Batali as Rabbit, as the chef
Yeah.
Rabbit.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that and Scott Rudin on the same island. But everything is just it feels right every time I watch this film. I there's a lot of films that I like. Oh, it's a favorite film. Like I don't think I could ever sit and watch The Dark Knight seriously ever. Like, and it's a great movie, but it's like what am I doing? Why am I watching this again? I don't have that feeling anytime I watch this film. It could be like years. It could be last week. And I always have fun because there's always like a visual cue that I missed that I'm catching on, or something random like, oh, it's Adrian Brody as the tiny mouse.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, Brian, what is your history with specifically Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yeah, this is kind of similar to last week when we talked about Miyazaki, where I watched all of his movies except for Grand Budapest in order. So I was watching all his movies. Shout out to Netflix DVD. Which is where I got a lot of these, which were Criterion editions, by the way, when I got them. So I was watching the Criterion versions, which is great. I fell in love. I got to this one in order. So right after Darjeeling, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And I loved it. And you're right, like what you said earlier, Thomas, like his style is so suited to animation. That zippiness, that kind of detail-oriented, like everything is so detailed in his movies. And this, of course, it works for animation because everything has to be detailed. You have to literally craft everything. And yeah, this is, I think, the third or fourth time I've seen this movie. And I do kind of agree. It's not my favorite of his movies. I think he has like 3 to 4 kind of stone cold masterpieces for me. Grand Budapest, Asteroid City, Royal Tenenbaums, and Steve Zissou maybe, but like this is the most fun of his movies. This is the one I could put this on at any point and I would be happy. It helps that it's 86 minutes, but it's also one of those movies like the thing people will talk about with Wes Anderson is that like, and it's a ridiculous thing to say, but like, oh, it's all style. It's all just his perfectly manicured little worlds that he creates. And like, I get it, but sue me, man. Like, I love living in these worlds. And this one with its like, this is the perfect fall movie. Like, I just love the color scheme, the vibes of it. It is so autumnal, and it is like, it's kind of perfect. I know that no movie is perfect, which, well, I might disagree with, but like, there's just, I have such a fun time watching this movie. It puts me in such a good mood. It has so many fun little elements to it, and yeah, like the cast is amazing. It is funny that it has like esteemed British actors, A-list actors, members of the Britpop scene, and like, yeah, like Roman Coppola
Simpsons writer.
and a Simpsons writer and all these people. Like, it's amazing, and it is just, it's a movie that, yeah, like a lot of Wes Anderson's movies, you can look at it on the surface and go like, this is a really fun movie about animals who have this kind of confrontation with these humans on the farm. But I think if like digging at it deeper, like there's a lot of really interesting threads that you can pull at. Yeah, it's like basically perfect. I don't know, like it is just so much fun.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my second favorite Anderson. I would agree that I think Budapest is like an immaculate masterpiece that makes me like cry
It has
so much.
everything
But,
he yeah, like everything
right.
he wants to say in movies is in that movie.
It is kind of his definitive statement, I would say, as a filmmaker in such a beautiful way. But yeah, I think Fox is like so right up there for me, and I think it's because, like you guys were mentioning, it has this incredible autumnal feel, and it has kind of like preciseness, but also there is a lot of like dark emotional elements in this. There's a lot of like complex emotional things that like, you know, Fox is dealing with and all this other stuff that I think like really resonates and feels very much of a piece with like Tenenbaums and stuff. Like Mr. Fox is not that different from like Gene Hackman's Royal Tenenbaum in terms of like he's kind of a fuck up and he's like, no baby, it's fine, don't worry. Like he does have that same kind of thing with like the Meryl Streep Fox character, and I think it really, I think, makes his movies like incredibly entertaining, but also speak on an emotional, weird level at the same time. Like, there's so many points in this movie where it's just like, you know, two characters kind of like staring at each other, but it feels just like so human, despite the fact that it's like two like fox puppets or whatever. When you looking into their eyes and you see particularly the biggest magical thing to me about stop motion every time. The moment where I am truly like, I have no idea how the fuck you do this is anytime a stop motion character cries, I'm just like, this is witchcraft. This is like,
Yeah.
put them at the stake. There's no way this is like done by traditional human hands. It feels, it evokes so much, despite the fact that it's like a little puppet that has like a bit of water coming out. It's just like, I feel you, man. I feel you, little 9-inch tall puppet.
The stuff with water in this movie is the moment when they're in the sewer and like the sewage fall, like the water,
Yes.
sort of like that waterfall is like the most gorgeous shot that I think I've ever seen in an animated film, or at least one of the most gorgeous shots I've ever seen in an animated movie. Most gorgeous in that movie. And I'm just sitting there the whole time like, how the fuck did they do this? Like, how the cuss did they do this? It's beautiful. Like,
Yeah, it's interesting talking about like the character, because like Anderson does have these characters who are very calculating, they're very exacting, they have a certain way of, you know, even Benicio del Toro in the Venetian Scheme is kind of similar, where like they are kind of emotionally cut off, you know, kind of what people say about Anderson's movies, right? They are emotionally cold, they don't have any human heart to them, which is like, it's just not true. And an element that I think is really fascinating is that it's co-written by Noah Baumbach, which I believe this is around the time he wrote Madagascar 3. He's in his post Jennifer Jason Lee divorce, you know, yeah, before he gets in with Greta Gerwig. And I think he adds a lot to that dryness, that kind of humor, like that feels very Baumbach. And the fact that you have George Clooney, who, I mean, like, I love George Clooney playing this type of character. Like, I love it in Out of Sight, and then all the Soderbergh movies, like Ocean's 11. Like,
He's a very Danny Ocean coded character.
It's very yes, and I love that he like is a robber. He's a thief, you know, which is such a like adult thing in a movie that is kind of for kids, but that he is a thief trying to do like one last job before he retires. You know, it's so it's such a fascinating like wrinkle in this story.
Yeah, I really love that. Once again, taking like the basic Roald Dahl story that doesn't even like, there are elements where like, oh, he'll go and like steal stuff like chickens and whatnot, but having that be like a character flaw as opposed to like, oh no, it's like a fox. Like a fox naturally is wanting to steal. There's like a thievery element that like just to survive. Like they're the hunter gatherer kind of like instinct that like these creatures would have. And to make that like an interesting character flaw where it's like, no, you have to be domesticated, you have a family now, you can't go out there and like steal stuff, you have to like have a job. And there's like he's the writer at the Gazette, which is such a funny fucking thing. There's like he cuts out his articles and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I gotta go to there's an opening of an art gallery. Oh, at one point where he's like gonna steal something, this cover. Just I love that kind of thing. It's like he's he's trying to go straight, but like he just has to pull, like you mentioned, Bryan, that one last job. And it's such a engaging character dynamic that like Clooney's just like so perfect for like Torrey. How do you feel about Clooney's performance here as Mr. Fox?
It's probably the most fun Clooney performance now that I think about it. Not to keep the thing up of this film being, fun, but yeah, it's very lively. Like I feel like everybody in this film had like they had fun. This wasn't work to them. This was I'm getting paid to basically live out my cardinal desires as a wild animal. you see it in multiple scenes where Fox eats his breakfast, fights with fights with Badger. Any moment where you get to see the wild animals be wild animals, and it's just George Clooney running around outside while two people are following him with shotgun microphones.
If you don't know out there, yes, the audio that Clooney initially recorded at least was done on like a farm. Where he was literally like running around. There's a great shot, particularly of him doing the pancake eating bit at the breakfast table, where just Clooney, so fucking funny. You see Clooney literally going like,
yeah, a lot of the audio was just dead. It's just like Bill Murray, all these people are just they're just at the farm. Like,
I mean, some of them, but then like Meryl Streep's in like a recording studio in London. No, I'm not going to the fucking farm.
Meryl Streep did. Yeah, there's some people. Yeah, but as far as like Murray and like Clooney were concerned for their stuff, they were just like, yeah, we'll just go to the farm. And the guy who voices the opossum, he
Wolodarski, yeah.
Yeah, Wolodarski. Sorry, yeah, Wolodarski was there too. Because I don't know, I was just kind of just deep diving into like this production, and it's just weird because it's just like, oh, everyone's at this farm. There's all these live shots and people talking, and then just cuts to Meryl Streep at the studio.
Yep,
kind of slap in the middle.
Meryl fucking Streep. Okay, I'm not gonna.
I'm not running around this farm.
You're gonna run around the farm. You better pay me like $10 million for that.
It is kind of fascinating that Meryl Streep is in a Wes Anderson movie. And I think it's the only time they've ever worked together, but like...
And she wasn't the first choice. Originally it was Cate Blanchett, I believe. And then she had to leave the production. And she's worked, obviously, with Anderson before. But, yeah, like that. And even Clooney also, this is the only time they've worked together at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, again, Anderson has been assembling, like, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, all these guys, like, these older actors. And it's like, I do feel like you said, Torrey, like, people have fun working on his movies. I think it is the fact that he really plays up the, like, in his live action work, like, you're dressing up, you're putting a funny costume, a mustache on, like, all this kind of fun stuff, that it's like, you really feel that in his movies, that people just, like, love to be there. And it comes across in the movies. Like, these characters are just, like, so much fun and so lively, and like, yeah, it's something that I just like. It's another layer of his movies that I think is like is really great.
Yeah, I love when like he'll pick somebody up and then he'll like carry them along with like, I think this is the first time he's worked with Defoe worked Zissou.
Yeah,
Zissou's
he's
the first
a great
time.
outfit, great fit.
Right, wonderful. But yeah, but I love that where it's like when you find somebody and you're just like, of course they fit perfectly into Anderson. Like the most recent one to me is Jeffrey Wright popping up Dispatch, I believe, is the first one, and then Asteroid City in particular. Asteroid City, he has like a whole monologue that's just like, why did you ever not work with Wes Anderson, Jeffrey Wright? You're kind of perfect for his fucking style. I love when he just clicks with somebody and you're just like, see him progress forward. It just is. It's a fun thing. It's one thing. It's like, it's the troop angle that like Bryan was talking about. Just like he's got a ragtag gang of folks, only it's a lot of Academy Award winners instead of just like kids put on a show. But he brings that out of like these very classy, serious actors. Like, I love that Cumberbatch is a great example too. Somebody who I feel has been very lost as of recent with the Roald Dahl things and then Phoenician Scheme recently. Just like, no, you work perfectly here. Why were you ever not here before, man?
I mean, Yeah, and obviously like Michael Cera is the obvious one where like
Yes.
you could see Michael Cera being in this movie. Like he fits like someone like Kylie's kind of like quiet demeanor, kind of like like Wolodarski's great, but like Sarah just fits so comfortably into that like as I was watching this, I was like, man, I want to see them work together more, and they should have worked together earlier. But yeah,
In terms of like the transition to like animation, I really like the specific style that he's going for with this specific way that like his stop motion movies handle hair. I find so fascinating because obviously you get like the hair from like different other characters, where it's like it feels like like a movie that's like very like well put on, like every single speck has like it moves in like a certain way and stuff like that. I love that it feels a bit more like this handheld way where like there are so many points where the hair ruffles in a clear way that's like, oh, somebody's finger was on that, and it's just like it fits perfectly and works especially for these wild animals that are just like going around like scurrying through the forests and the trees and stuff like that and getting shit all over in their hair and whatnot. It feels like rough and in a way that like works wonderfully for the aesthetic of Anderson and this specific story.
there's lots of stuff in here that isn't like quote unquote clean in a typical Wes Anderson way, like the hair. I love whenever there's like smoke and it's like it's like cotton or like wool or
Yes.
something like that. Like I love just how like fuzzy it looks.
It's such an iconic scene of just them just leaving. Like to me, that's like what's the scene that makes you just think of Fantastic Mr. Fox? I think of Fox and the opossum just running out of the fucking cotton wool smoke
Yeah.
out the sewer and then going behind the motorcycle and going on the even smaller motorcycle and just driving along. And like that's the scene that always pops in my head just randomly if I ever have like a thought about that film. And it's just the work like right there. It's just cotton. It's just fast moving cotton and it's simulating smoke and it looks amazing.
It's a moment where he's kind of like he's showing you the craft. He's like, this just looks like like cotton, but like it's that the artificiality of animation, and he's kind of like leaning into that, and I just like I love that, and it's a great way to do animals, because like I imagine with the fur and everything, like must be such a pain to have to deal with all of that stuff, and he found a really clever way of doing it.
Yeah, I think that's all very like wonderfully put together. But also, I like the fact that there's a mix of it where it's like there is some of that roughness, but it's still at the same time the attention to detail of certain things. Like if you look into like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, like so much of like the decor throughout this is like directly taken from like Roald Dahl's household. Like that one chair that Fox has, where it's like it's got the little like desk that like slides in and out. That's like Roald Dahl's chair that he always wrote in. Like in the Roald Dahl shorts that he did, there's the stuff where Ray finds in that one chair that has like a writing desk on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's his chair. And I love that it can mix together, once again, like these like very silly details that aren't as like finely crafted with like very specific things like that, or even a lot of the human town is like very similar to Bath, where he like wrote a lot of his stories and stuff. It's like almost shot for shot. You look at the behind the scenes stuff, it's like you recreated the blueprint of this like little like strip of town. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that, I mean, like the miniatures, man. Like I love miniatures so much, and Anderson does it in all his movies, but obviously in animation, like that is just like it's just like magic. I love it. I love the way it looks. I love these like perfect little like dioramas. Like it's like just the wide shots where we get like the Bunsen Bogus Bunsen Bean like farms and the train passes by. Like that shot, that is like what I think of when I think of this movie. And it just, I don't know, there is still like you can feel all of it. Like you can like this is, I just want to live in wherever this is in England, even though there's a lot of like nasty stuff going on with these farmers, but like it's just so like it's like the detail. Like every time I watch this movie, you can like just pause it on any like establishing shot, and you can just like pick out all these little tiny details that are so like perfect and everything. And yeah, I love it.
I also really love the different scales we get of the characters, where it's like you'll have close-up shots that have like much more detailed, like 9-inch characters almost, and then when they're like very small and they're like bigger, like wider shots, they're just like these little tiny, like almost action figure sized guys. They're like moving about. They're so short. I love that. Or even when they switch up kind of like the animation style almost with like the glowing bit. I love it. Where it's just like, oh, you're glowing, really, and it's like a fox that has like a light inside of it, basically.
It doesn't. It like for some reason it like loses its fur too. Like when
yes,
you're glowing, it's like, oh wow, your textures have smoothed out amazingly too.
I mean that, or like when all the eyes, like when the dog like eats the blueberry, and like it's the classic like Anderson rhythm where it like he eats the blueberry, we pause like a beat, and then like the eyes like oop. And like the X's like on the eyes, it's just like so perfectly timed, and it's this kind of like, again, he's showing you like the kind of a peek behind the curtain a little bit. Like I love when he does that kind of thing. You know, like for example in the Roald Dahl shorts that he does for Netflix, there's a lot of like props that will say like prop of shovel or something like that he's like just. He's showing you the kind of artificial nature of the thing you're watching, which I think is like he does it in these like really smart ways that are so like clever and funny, and like I love it.
But yeah, so who would you say is your favorite of kind of like the supporting cast? Because we've talked about like Clooney a bit, and even Streep. But who's your favorite of some of these like supporting characters, Bryan? Especially the voiceover performances.
You know it's Rat. You don't even have to ask. I mean, Willem Dafoe, one of my favorite, maybe my favorite actor of all time, and just, I mean, Willem Dafoe as a Rat, like, just the easiest casting decision you've ever had to make. First off,
y'all are trespassing illegally.
Voice. It's so perfect. I love his like the red and white striped shirt.
Yes.
The switchblades that he has and like the dancing that he's doing, like it's very like greaser coated in a way, like it's like Rebel Without a Cause kind of thing. Like I just, and yeah, like just Willem Dafoe doing that voice and showing up as a what does Meryl Streep say, a murderous rat is just it's perfect. And like everything he does in this movie I absolutely love. He's like just my favorite character ever.
She was the town tart, if I do recall.
Sada.
The town tart? I mean, a tart though? Shut up.
No. The response of just like, was she the town tart? Well, we all lived. She did.
It was a different time. Yeah, it's like Clooney. Yeah, it's just.
but tart though? Shut up.
I love too with like that whole character is so interesting because there is a rat character in the book, but it's much more kind of like a side, kind of like, oh, this is kind of an antagonist, but they get over it. I love that they make it so much more personal, that there's like this long history that he's had with this rat creature that just like we were dropped in on, just like, oh, it's rat again, I gotta like deal with this dude. And then the resolve of that one, I love this is something also with like the fence scene, but also their fight in the sewers. It's like with the electricity. Whenever like somebody gets shocked and you see like their full skeleton,
I love it.
And it's like flat and stuff like that. But that resolve of like Rat ends up dying, and then he gives him like a bit of like, here's some of that cider. It's like liquid gold. There's a bit of like there's a funniness to it that we're talking about, but the fact that he has respect for him in death is like such a mature idea, especially for like an animated movie. And like leading him out to like float around. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, he's still going to be a dead rat behind a Chinese restaurant or whatever. Stuff like that. It just there's like, it mixes those tones so beautifully in a way I think only Anderson can.
Yeah, some of them are downright fucking brutal, like downright custom brutal. God damn it, damn it. No, the scene where they're back to the waterfall scene or sewage fall scene where Meryl Streep's like, I love you too, but I shouldn't have married you. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Oh,
it's, yeah, like behind all of the corduroy and the perfectly manicure, like dollhouse kind of things, like he gets at these like nuggets of humanity that like they're there but maybe you don't pick up on them as much the first time you're seeing them, but like the more you revisit these movies, like it's really there and it's really present and it kind of cuts deep. Like I mean, like I love the stuff with Meryl Streep, and she has one of my favorite lines in the movie where she's if what I think is happening, it better not be. This is so perfect. But yeah, she has these moments where you feel her like betrayal, and of course you have Meryl Streep, one of our greatest living actresses. But there's stuff in it that's really dark, and like I think Anderson has a part in that, but I think Baumbach like also from a writing perspective, like that's a lot of what Baumbach does is like kind of quirky, kind of funny. But when you get down to it, there's a real sadness to a lot of this stuff. And, Yeah, with the
interpersonal relationships, I think, he nails that so wonderfully, Anderson and Baumbach. I think particularly with, I'll just say someone who I haven't really talked about, but one of the biggest Anderson regulars, a person that Anderson discovered with Rushmore, Jason Schwartzman as Ash is like such a perfect performance, in particular, like a bratty teenager. I just love like the shit where Rick Christopherson comes in and is like immediately such like a nice, impressive like guy that like most of the kids at school like, particularly the one Fox girl. I love that. Holding like we're going steady. I think is very funny. But Ash is like such a little asshole, but you really see his progression over the course of the movie in such a great way. With like at the beginning, Christopherson's like, "Oh hey, and which one do I?" She was like, "Oh, you know what, man? Yeah, how about you? You know, you could just steal my entire bed. How about I just go sleep in a corner over here, buddy? How about that? Like that incredible like animosity that he just builds up." And I love that moment when after they try and do the sneak around, like, "Oh, let's try and get Dad's tail back," and then Christopherson ends up getting caught, and he's just like, it's my fault. I love that realization. Like, you see that this kid fully recognizes like the gravity of his mistake and his folly, and that he's gonna like get him out, but he still has some of that insecurity, like with the karate chop thing. I love that whole sequence. Just like, give me a quick karate lesson. Okay, well, you gotta like stand still like this, and then you have to consider all these different techniques and stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna chop it right out.
The pullback, that's the real
yes,
to
the
it.
pullback.
I would say you just go back to it where it's like, oh, favorite supporting characters for me, it's the kids in the movie. Honestly, it's Ash, it's Christopherson, it's Agnes. They're really just they're really funny, and they're just really they have their nice little background, little back and forths or whatever. And Ash is whining where he's like, you're supposed to be my partner, you're disloyal. It's just very he's such a whiner, but it's very accurate. He's a kid. He's supposed to be that, He's someone who thinks he's getting overlooked constantly because of his dad, and he's grouchy and he's moody. Hello, yes, my relatability, liking this. And I think somebody actually, it was funny, one of the videos I was watching today was a YouTube video. Someone made a thing of Ash being iconic for like 5 or 6 minutes of all of his lines, and it's a bunch of people who are like, oh wow, I feel like I can relate to this. I really need to see this movie. So I think there's like this younger audience of people that are wanting to watch it just because of Ash's character, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, especially like what was the bandit hat bit, which is like, me an apology. Well, he gets a bandit hat. Why don't I get a bandit hat? And then later that he made it out of
can't do anything.
Right, and then he made it out of a sock later is so funny, and the little detail like the foot of the sock is at the top of his head.
Yeah,
a little dangle.
Yeah.
And that like his arc of like feeling unappreciated by his dad, who is just like doesn't give him the kind of like affirmation that he wants, is such a Wes Anderson thing. I mean, it's all over Royal Tenenbaums, and it's all over a lot of his movies, even The Phoenician Scheme. And I don't know, it is something that he's like really trying to tap into, of like what a father figure is, and I think he has a lot of empathy for the child characters in this. I mean, like the mention that Christopherson's dad has like double pneumonia. And then later he's like, oh, he's down to single pneumonia, which is kind of funny. yeah, he has just a real empathy for them, and like a real like he gets that kind of feeling, that like the jealousy and the kind of like bitterness. And then I think it is such a clever way of handling it, where he like, yeah, like as a Thomas, he realizes like, oh, I've messed up. I've been like selfish. I've been like using Christopherson for this plan, and like I put him in danger. Like it's my fault. We need like it's it's a wonderful way of handling that character, and there's something again so human about that. Even though these are all little fox miniature guys, that yeah, I really love.
You get glimpses of it too. The thing I like about it is like it's not like he's just like, oh, it's like I'm grumpy, or he's being mean to Christopherson for the majority of it. But it's not just like, you get the little things like the train sequence where he realizes, oh shit, I just made him cry. I feel really bad. Shit. And then he just starts playing, like they start looking at the train, and like, they kind of have like a little bonding moment there, which I thought was nice. And I also I love what he develops too when he's like about to have his like badass moment where he's like, I could fit down there. You know why? Why? Because I'm little. Give me that shoestring.
Yeah, I just something that Anderson really taps into. I think it's something I just realized, like a big reason why I think I connected with him so much, especially at a younger age, is like Anderson just knows exactly how to depict indoor kids. Like kids who did not play outside that often. And I think like that's very key with like a lot of his different characters, like all the way to Rushmore, obviously, like Schwartzman. Speaking of that, like that Max Fisher character is such like a gifted indoor kid, taps into that kind of like anxiety of just like, oh yeah, I'm like a good kid who does good at school, but also like I don't have a lot of friends, and I just like I get jealous of people who are more socially forward. Like I love that Christopherson is like such a nice kid, and it makes every time Schwartzman has an outburst so funny. Like just the small little bits, like when they're doing like the whole like science experiment thing, and the beaver bully kid like is just like, hey, watch this, and puts the chemical in there. He's like, oh, you just ruined the experiment. Hold on, I gotta like diffuse this. Like he's so calm and collected.
He's like, why is your cousin such a wet sandwich? Wait, what? Can you run that by me again? He's like, what? He's like,
Yeah.
I love the like he just kind of
again?
does a hand motion different. I love that recurring kind of thing throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But there is that kind of thing, like he kind of empathizes with Ash in that like Christopherson is so like naturally good at everything without trying, that it's like a little annoying that, like a person you meet where it's like, why is everything so like easy for you? And like he humanizes that. And I love like the Whack-Bat sequence. Shout out Owen Wilson's character, who I also love, just his design. And like I love the rules for Whack-Bat, just how they get like crazier and crazier. It's like baseball, but also kind of like cricket, but like kind of like football. Like it's like I love that stuff. Yeah, like you understand his kind of jealousy, where it's just like, why he's so like naturally good at everything. He's never played the game before, and he does a hot box or whatever that's called. Like it's yeah.
Right, and especially how that connects with like the father figure thing you're mentioning, where Owen Wilson has like, but wow, he really is your father's nephew. Well, no, he's actually from my mother's side. Oh, interesting. And like the whole thing, like Whack-Bat, he wants to be so good at because his father was like the international champion or whatever, and has like all those different like awards for like best Whack-Bats. Like, oh no, you shouldn't put yourself up to that standard, kid. That's not gonna. Don't measure yourself up to that. Other like regulars are in here, obviously. Like we referenced him earlier. We don't like necessarily talking about him currently, but Bill Murray, as Badger. Despite the fact that like there's a lot of like complicated feelings about Bill Murray currently, he's so fucking good in these Anderson movies, particularly like Badger is like we keep referencing. Torrey has made a running joke out of the cussin thing for this episode, and like that scene is like incredibly perfect. Just like him playing off Clooney. And the like, especially if you watch that like stuff like filmed on like in that case it was like indoors, but like him and Clooney doing the like you cussing at me and then the ferocious animal noises, like seeing it played out in live action is so perfect, and then in the film we're just like I respect your candor, but I'm not gonna take any of your advice. Is like so funny. That's like these animals have like a decor for so much, like he's in a business suit and his little office is so cute. He's lawyer, right? It's like as your lawyer, it's just like.
Him in bed later going like with Meryl Streep like obviously mad at him and going like, why didn't I listen to my lawyer? It's such a funny line.
I just love, like, once again, that he has like the suit and he has all this decor, and like, oh, the when he does the whole like, oh yeah, Bogus Bunsen being like giving up that exposition, and then it's just like, oh yeah, the kids have a little rhyme about him here, and then he plays it, and like the reverb that's on it, we're just like, it's like playing out of these speakers, it's like, it's so good. And then that all that decorum like melts away. Then it's like, you cussing at me, and they're like ferocious animals once again. I just love that, like, he doesn't hide the fact that these animals are animals. They're not just like celebrities playing these characters. They're actual wild, ferocious beasts.
And then like the pause right afterwards where they're like, they just go back to their conversation and sit down.
Yes.
It's such a funny, like, comedic moment, I think.
It's like, just buy the tree. Okay.
Yeah, I love that it's like a business deal. Like
Yes.
like it, yeah, you mentioned the fact that he plays the little, like, yeah, the children have a little like rhyme about these horrible farmers. The music in this movie, like, Tori, you talked about the Jarvis Cocker thing, like, I love the score. Alexandre Desplat, who does a lot of Anderson scores.
Notably, this is their first collaboration. It was originally going to be Mark Mothersbaugh, who did a lot of the other scores, but then he backed out, and Desplat ended up taking over and has been his composer ever since.
And has been fucking cooking, let me tell you. Like,
amazing scores. Yeah.
And this one, it has a twang to it. I love that. Like, I don't know what the mouth thing is called. It does like the bow, bow, bow. Like,
yeah.
I love just the sound of it. It sounds like fall. And then, yeah, it has a Jarvis Cocker song in it, which is just like, I'm not a big Britpop fan. I never got too much into it. I've never listened to Pulp, but I love that he kind of pops up in this movie to do his little song, the Criterion version, but he does an introduction.
Yep.
Where he's like, I play
Petey in the film, which is smaller.
A minor role, yeah. But it has like this kind of like, you're talking about the kind of like story within a story thing, like that's how he's presenting it to you. Like, I love that little detail that he has. I also just love an introduction to a movie like that, where it's like, this is what this movie is going to be about.
Yeah, I love also with the score, like, there's a weird mix of stuff, because there's like that, but there's also like the choral stuff, like the little British children's choir they brought in.
Yeah.
For all that stuff, like,
right,
but even like, even outside of like the little rhyme, like, you still hear like the like that throughout the whole thing. I love it. That's something that's really been a factor with like the Desplat scores. And that's like all throughout. Like Moonrise Kingdom has that too. It's just like I love how it integrates that. But even like that kind of autumnal thing. Yeah. How do you feel about the score, Tori?
I love the score. It feels like autumn. I think they said it when they were doing the animation when I was watching the behind the scenes, that they did not use, I don't think they used green at all. Come to think of it, it is it's just very warm. It's very it's like cloudy, it's orangey, all that.
Yeah,
like,
to the degree that like there is no frame of this movie without orange in it.
Exactly.
That was a very specific thing he wanted to do, and like it makes sense. Like you can feel it throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, and it just works perfectly, and I think the score helps with that too. I think the score provides that same amount of warmth that the animation does. It's just it's in perfect cohesion with each other.
But specifically, like, I know there's little bits, like, when they're at their feast, some of the kids are dressed up in, like, Halloween outfits, like a little, like, skeleton costume and stuff, but this feels like such a great unofficial Thanksgiving movie to me. Like, I usually try to watch it around November, because it has that kind of vibe of just, like, it's post-Halloween, we haven't hit winter yet, but we're in kind of, like, actually, like, the peak of fall, and just, like, leaves have fallen, and we're, like, all preparing to, like, have our Thanksgiving turduckens, as it were. And I love it evokes like that kind of like the weird like mixed feeling of fall. It's just like, oh, we're heading toward the holidays, but there's just kind of this like nice small vibe of
it's
like,
very wistful.
Wistful, yes.
Yeah, and as someone who fucking detests the fall, I mean the summer, and we're doing this in July right now, like,
yep.
I was watching this just being like, I can't fucking wait. Like the apple cider, just all like the food as well, like it is so autumn. And I just like, yeah, it is the kind of thing where obviously there's a lot more going on in this movie, as we talked about, but you could just put it on and just like just luxuriate in the vibes, and it would also just suffice, because like yeah, it's gorgeous. Like it's unbelievably gorgeous.
Actually, ever since I've been living in the South, I'll hop on that. Summer cussin sucks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
I've been in Georgia for like 9 years now. There's every summer. It's muggy, it's heavy. I work a labor job, so it sucks even more.
Mhm.
I miss it to where like summer, because I'm from the Northeast, so I'm used to my summer days being, sure, it'll be 90, maybe even 95 sometimes. Sure, there'll
Yeah,
be
you grew up with
humidity.
seasons. Fuck you, dude. We're in Florida.
Okay, that's what I'm used to. Okay, I'm used to my seasons. I want it where it's at nighttime and it's like 70 degrees and I don't have to have a central AC system like here. Y'all gotta have that. I mean, it's awful. Autumn's the best. Winter sucks
yeah.
too. I can say winter sucks. Okay, maybe I can't complain about the summer, but you know what? The winters definitely do suck. And be happy that you've been in that humid ball of hell known as Florida and don't have to worry about a snowstorm. But yeah, no, that's what I just love about this. Just it captures that. It makes it. I get homesick. That's how well the power of autumn is illustrated in this movie.
Even though what I like also about this is that it is obviously like it's supposed to take place in Britain, given especially like the human characters are specifically British. But I like that that's not really a factor with like any of the animals, and it makes it almost feel like it could just be like anywhere that has like a fall season in a weird way. Even though it has that very British Roald Dahl isms to it, it just has this like weird nexus point of just like it's fall world. It's like this is the fall door that like you go through a Nightmare Before Christmas or some shit. You end up in fucking here. I love that element. But let's talk a bit about our humans, particularly obviously Bean, as played by the late Michael Gambon. How do you feel they work, especially as antagonists, Torrey?
Perfect trio of evil cussing douchebag farmers that want to evilishly destroy an entire animal community. It's just so they can prove their, just like a show to the world. You don't steal from us. Yeah, it's like you got fat Mr. Burns, you got tiny Mr. Burns, you got alcoholic Mr. Burns with a gat who just loves shooting everything. Like they're just mean old school type of bumbling stupid villains. You got your big silent dumb one, you got your small talkative dumb one, and then you got the talkative know-it-all, thinks he's the leader, evil genius or whatever. Who again only what do they say, he only subsists on a liquid diet of strong
of his cider.
of his cider. It's cider, it's cigarettes, and bullets. That's all that guy eats.
Right, and contrasted with like the I believe it's Bogus, who's like the guy that the fat guy who's like, oh, he eats 3 chickens for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah,
every
12
single
total.
day.
Yeah,
12 total.
and it's just like, it's just he's the big guy, but then like the little guy, that's Beans, I'm guessing, has like the worst diet. What is it, like donuts filled with liver, like chicken liver, or
Yeah, I believe that's
swab
buns.
lizards?
Yeah. But I love
Buns,
that
sorry,
one
yeah.
shot. I love that shot where it's like, oh, he's like this tall, like he's like a miniature dwarf or whatever, and they show him like in the pool, and he's barely able to keep up in the shallow.
Which apparently is in the book.
Yes,
Yeah.
that element is in the book. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just like the effect of it just stuffing the donut, I was just like, oh god. I was like, this is the worst donuts ever. How British are these villains?
I was gonna say, yeah, like you said, Thomas, like they are so British, and this movie it's not trying to rob it of its Britishness, and yet, yeah, it does feel kind of like it could take place anywhere. They have that kind of like British like nastiness to them that it obviously is in the book, but I just love their kind of like how callous they are almost. I love like Bean anytime he's like on the radio, just like bring us like 200 casings of TNT or whatever to blow up these animals, and just like that scene where they shoot the Mr. Fox's tail off. It's just like it's that darkness like that I really love, and that like I like when like children's stories have that kind of dark edge to them a little bit. Like I don't like everything being like, Disneyified, kind of sanded down. Like it's something I really love about them is that they are so like gross and also just so evil, but also kind of ridiculous. Like I love the detail that when they send the ransom note and they have
Yeah.
the thing of like why did they mail it in like cutout letters and like to hide their identity. It's like, but we know who they are. It's just
Well, no, but it's like, but you did that. That's what I love. Just like, oh, but you did
yeah,
that.
when
And
they
it's-
get it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I just, yeah. I love that element of it. Yeah, and I also very interesting to note that like Bean is the main one, the Michael Gambon character. He looks a lot like Roald Dahl. Like if you've ever seen like photos of Roald Dahl, he looks
Yeah.
very similar, which is kind of interesting, especially, I don't know, if you look up things about Roald Dahl, like say his estate having to apologize many times for the racism and anti-Semitism, particularly in his books, and his words outside of the books in particular. It's kind of interesting that he kind of plays the villain here, but I love the animation on Bean, particularly whenever he is like very upset, he like trashes like that one room, there's fucking trashes all over the place after he gets the letter, or even like when he's using the gun, he's like moving around, just like there's so many great bits of like characters like bouncing off the walls almost basically in a way that you could only really do in like animation, particularly with the stop motion. Makes it even more impressive like that happens, or even like when the tree's about to get destroyed initially and Fox is like bouncing off the walls like, wait, we gotta dig, get down. It's so good. It just like the way that these, even like whether they're human or animal, I love that idea that like the human characters basically feel like they're not that different from like these animals, even though they think they're so much more superior. I love that element of it, that they're thinking that it's like, oh, these pests we gotta get rid of, even though they're also animalistic, monstrous, shitty humans at the same time.
I also just love the look of each of their farms. Obviously, like the cider room and like just all of the design for all this, like the spaces that they inhabit are so distinctive and so in line with like their own character design towards the beginning, kind of where Fox is like robbing each of them once like every night. Like I love how each of those spaces kind of looks in every single time.
There's an incredible detail and space for like all these different characters, like the tree house the foxes live and stuff like that. The fact that like we have like this very typical kind of like kitchen setup also, but there's like all this dirt and roots coming out of it almost. I love that. It's like we're trying to create domesticity anywhere we can. It's this great thing about this movie too, that like so much of this is about like you lose your home due to some horrible act that's outside of your control, and you gotta like move on, and you gotta like find a new place, and you gotta make home there. Like the fact that like all these animals end up living in the sewers, I think is like such a weirdly sweet thing that it's like, oh, we don't have nature anymore, so let's take roost in like this steel, cold kind of environment that like humans have created to like put their filth away, but they managed to make it home. I just find that so endearing and sweet.
It's kind of depressing though. There's a little part where they're where they're going through all like the the spaces now where like everybody lives and everyone's starting to like sort of make their home in the sewage system, and there's like the rabbit family, and one of them was like, I'm hungry. Well, there's water. I'm like, oh
Right.
no, this is like, I was like, oh man, this is depressing. Fox, you starved an entire community. What the cuss is wrong with you, Foxy? Look at what you brought.
But there's a bit of a silver lining where it's like, oh, they found a direct route to the supermarket that's owned by Bogus and everything. Like the Bogus ones have like the supermarket chain. I love that it's just like, oh, we can like steal food from them or whatever. I like that element that it's like they make do with whatever. It's kind of like what Bryan was talking about. There's a darkness that's inherent to the story, but also at the same time there's like a bit of the resilient hope of just like, well, we keep on keeping on because like we're trying to survive and trying to live with each other. And it really speaks to a lot of like Anderson's themes. I think that's like the big kind of factor for like the Fox family and everybody else.
Yeah, I do love that they end up underneath that supermarket, and it is just like, well, we could steal from them directly, but let's steal from them in a more like distanced way.
Right.
But we're still stealing from these awful rich people who are like really scummy. It is great. I love that.
We've been talking about kind of like the different like spaces and whatnot for that these like people live in and stuff like that. Bryan, I'm curious, how do you feel like with like the translation obviously from live action to animation? Do you feel like a big difference with the animation, despite the fact that like Anderson's known for making the little dollhouse stuff? Do you feel like there's even a different vibe coming out of like animation that you don't see in his live action work?
It's funny. I think he actually translates really well. Like you talked about like the scene where they're digging, and it is just them going like, "Rrr," like trying to like dig with their hands, and you see like the ground, like it doesn't make total sense, but like it's that kind of child logic thing. I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that happens in a lot of his movies. He has these moments like that, and I think he translates it really, really well. And his style, his comedic sensibility, like really works for this movie as well. Like his kind of dry humor, his zippiness. I love the scenes when Mr. Fox is robbing the farms, and he's just like, it's that classic like Anderson, like just panning to the right, and everything is kind of held in this like like perfect little symmetrical kind of shot, and it's like, this is just him. He's so good at that kind of stuff. And I think what's really impressive though is that he was able to mediate that through Mark Gustafson, who's the animation director,
Yes.
and like through animation, because obviously he's not an animator himself, but he's able to kind of still get his style across. I feel like that is something that's really difficult to do in when you have a live action director doing animation. And I think he just like gets it so perfect. And yet, like Thomas, you mentioned the part where like when Bogus Bunsen and Bean get the tractors, and like
Yes.
there's that great shot of all three of them just like like coming at them. And Fox like jumps around and he's like, I got an idea. Where it's like, I think he can get away with being like a little bit zanier because it's animation, but just little moments like that I just find so in line with like what he's about. And I love that he's able to translate something like that to animation like this.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that there's a bit more of a zaniness, but I think there's also like such a ability to like do this interesting stuff with the camera. Like I love that one shot when like Rat is attacking them in the sewers, and you like have him push past like a couple people and
like,
then
the
get
POV,
to Ash.
yeah.
Yeah, that POV shot is like incredible. There's a lot of stuff like that. Just feels like he's unencumbered by pesky things like gravity and human anatomy or whatever to be able to like do fun stuff like that. Or even the little bits like when they're all at the feast and where they're all excitedly like bobbing in their seats. It feels like you can only do that in animation where it's just like, yay, I can't believe it. Like they're like bopping up and down. Just like those little things. It's just like, yeah, like you can tell like Anderson has been dreaming of wanting to do with like even like human characters, but he still once again has a lot of that sincerity and that emotion that's like really impactful on the character, so it doesn't just feel like, oh, he's playing with dolls or whatever. He's treating these dolls just as seriously as he did like Gene Hackman and Royal Tenenbaums. I'm sure they were much easier to work with than Gene Hackman, though, from everything I've heard about that production. But yeah, do you notice like a bit of a difference at all with like the live action and the animation side of Anderson, Torrey?
I think Brian like nailed it earlier. His style was perfect for animation. There's obviously like a difference, I mean, again, you just mentioned it, between like if I'm watching like the Royal Tenenbaums, I'm watching Darjeeling Limited, Bottle Rocket, versus watching this. I will say the manic energy though does feel like, I will say, if I were to link it to, I guess, a live action film, like if I were to say like the film's energy, it feels like it's on point with Bottle Rocket, because Bottle Rocket's like very, very madcap, very energetic when you watch it, compared to like, let's say like a Royal Tenenbaums, which is a little more subdued. I think it's still like the spirit of it, like the core of it, still Wes Anderson. It's undeniable.
There's more of a youthful energy for sure.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. Yeah,
I like what you said about like Thomas about he's unencumbered by gravity. Like I think of like the water sequences you were talking about, Torrey, and he's just following like the tunnels, just like whoa, like just following these like tunnels up and down, and like it is just like this big wall that they built, which I was watching a little bit of the behind the scenes, and like it is something that like he could probably do in live action, but because it's animation, it somehow just works, and you kind of buy into it a little bit more. Whereas like in Grand Budapest, for instance, like a lot of those miniatures are noticeably like miniatures, and he's kind of playing with that, I think. Whereas in this, yeah, there's so much like, it's the thing I keep saying about animation, like it's things that would be so difficult to do in live action, like the perspective stuff as well.
Yeah.
Like how he can zoom in on one of like Bogus's farm, or you can have like the super wide shot of all three of them. there's a playfulness here. Like you really feel like he is like experimenting and not just that he's playing with dolls, but that he is like having fun playing in this world.
Yeah, I guess now is as good a time as any to bring up Isle of Dogs, which is just the follow-up he would do after, you know, a while, because he would do Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest, and then is there one I'm missing before? I think because there was a big break between
That was the
Budapest
break,
and Isle
yeah.
of Dogs. Yeah. I rewatched it recently because I saw it in theaters and I wasn't huge on. Obviously, there's a lot of like discourse that was going on around that movie about how it treats, say, like its Japanese characters, which I don't think is completely invalid. I don't think it's necessarily as like malicious as some people might have contended, but I think the big difference to me between like Fox and Isle of Dogs is like it feels much more muted in a way that I think it almost doesn't take as much advantage of like animation to me as an art form. It just feels like there's like the main reason is just to have like these dogs kind of talk and have like some funny back and forth, but I don't feel as much of like that kind of like lived in emotional element really. I think they try and do that with like the Bryan Cranston dog and the Ev Schreiber dog, and it's not completely like there's no effort into it necessarily, but I feel like I'm at a distance more with that movie than I am with like most Andersons. Like aside from Darjeeling, that one feels a lot more kind of like cold to me. It feels like I'm almost seeing like the perspective of like a Wes Anderson naysayer a bit when I watch that movie, because I just, aside from like I think the kid and like the two white dogs, the Liev Schreiber and Bryan Cranston, I don't feel like there's as much like emotionality in any of those supporting characters to me. I don't know. You guys seem to like that movie more. Do you disagree with that?
I think it was more about the Bryan Cranston character, and it was just kind of like Bryan Cranston's character and Liev Schreiber. So it's basically Spot and I forget the Albite dog's character's name. I feel like the focus was more about them, those two and the boy, and everybody else is just kind of just like surrounding. They're just kind of. I don't want to say they're just there because I really like the cast and I really like the side characters, but I can see it. I can see how someone could definitely see that film having like a cold nature to it. I think it's sweet because to me it's like, what is sweeter than the adventure of a boy trying to find his dog and having that connection of trying to find your dog and also building a connection with a new one who is, suffering. Basically his entire existence is because of his trauma, which is what Bryan Cranston's character's dog is. Like when he talks about the incident where he bit his adopted family's with the kid of his adopted family. Like I think the way that they explored his character was like really good. There's stuff in that film that I think might be that is not as fun as as Fantastic Mr. Fox for obvious reasons. Nobody got poisoned to death in Fantastic Mr. Fox. There's a lot of downright evil things that happen in Isle of Dogs, but I think that evil and that coldness is necessary because it makes the moment where the boy and the two dogs are able to overcome those odds, and it makes that much of an earned moment when they do overcome those odds. But I can definitely see that turning people off, so I don't think that's an invalid opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Tori, like I'm such a dog person. In theory, that this movie would be like perfect for me.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah,
even that, yeah.
But I don't feel like somebody like Edward Norton like dog or Jeff Goldblum dog or whatever doesn't have like an ounce as much as characters like even Kylie does in like Fantastic Mr. Fox, who we don't know like a lot about, but just we learn small details I think are really interesting, like that he's like the member of the Diamond Card Club or whatever. It's like, yeah, I pay my credit off. I'm really good.
Yeah, it doesn't have that strong of a focus of making their side characters as memorable as it does in Fantastic Mr. Fox. I absolutely agree with that.
Or I think any of the Anderson stuff personally, but I don't know. Do you agree with that at all, Bryan?
I mean, I'm more on Torrey's side, to be honest with you. I like a lot of that stuff. I haven't seen it in a while, actually. I should revisit it, but it is also definitely it's a movie made by a white guy about Japan, so
yeah.
There is that going on, but despite all of that, like, there's something about Anderson's, like, manic dollhouse kind of thing and the stop motion in that movie that I find just inherently, like, beautiful and really watchable, and I just love his comedy and just, like, yeah, it is weird though because like he has made so many amazing movies that like that one is I think great and is like on my lower tier of Anderson, but I do really love it. I don't know, there's something about it that I just like I would like to revisit it. I remember seeing it again and kind of noticing some of the problems people had with it, but it's been a really long time since I've seen it.
Yeah, I mean, and it's definitely very watchable, and the animation is still gorgeous. I have like, it's not a movie I hate necessarily. I think it is kind of frustrating that like, yeah, I think just with what Anderson's capable of, whether in live action or animation, I just feel like that one, it feels like it's much more at a distance as opposed to like we mentioned, a lot of the other Anderson stuff, like you kind of are like brought into that world. You're brought into like who these characters are and like all the facets of even like some of the smaller like ancillary characters. Like even the one Anderson plays in Fantastic Mr. Fox, the like otter guy who's got like the polo on all the time, and like the realtor, and just like showing people around. Then like when he gets into the sewers, he's like very like anxious and still like goes along with just like even like the smallest people who barely have any like real character to them are imbued with so much. Hell, the maybe my favorite scene of this whole movie, the bit where Fox and Ash and Kylie are in the motorcycle with a sidecar, and they see the wolf, and like the wolf has been this recurring thing of like he's got a phobia of wolves. He's not afraid of them, but he has a phobia of wolves. Like this constant thing of like, oh, like a major predator like a wolf, that like what is a fox afraid of, like this giant like wolf creature that's out in the woods. And just that moment where like he connects with it briefly, and it's just like he doesn't know what the wolf's doing there, but he's not attacking him, so he has like a respect for him. And then like the fist pump that's mutually shared.
So funny.
Just it's very funny, but there's also like a weird kind of beauty to that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Of just like, oh, these two like creatures that would be at each other's throats, like really connecting for like a brief moment. I find that like so beautiful and touching in a way that like I can't really express other than just like Anderson just crafts it perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean, again, we talked about it before, but like this movie's 86 minutes, which again is a constraint of just like this shit takes a long time, so the movie should be short, has to be shorter. But it works for that breakneck pacing, and the last like half of this movie is relentless in terms of just how much it's throwing at you. It's so attention grabbing. It grips you, and you're just there, and everything's kind of finally hitting where like Christopherson's kidnapped, and this entire town is on the lookout for Fox and the gang, and just so manically paced that I love how this movie moves. And it's one of the things that makes it so rewatchable for me, is just that like it is short, but when it gets going and there's no wasted moment in this, because obviously it's stop motion, you can't waste any time. And so yeah, I love the rhythm of it, the pacing,
even the editing too, which is something that's I think a bit more unique to stop motion, because like you can't really edit as much, particularly like in your older cell animation days, where it's like, oh, you can't really like edit like a movie like that necessarily. Like sequences have to kind of like flow into each other, and there's like you mentioned, the thing anything can't be wasted, as opposed to stop motion has a bit more, because it's like you're dealing with like three-dimensional live action kind of creatures. It's easier to like edit around, and there's like a bunch of editors on this, but one of them, Andrew Weisbaum, is like his usual editor that does like Moonrise Kingdom and French Dispatch, stuff like that. And I think that's another key thing, is that like Anderson has like such a specific editing style, and it's really well utilized like throughout that climax, like you're mentioning, like all this stuff where you've got like, oh, we're trying to get Christopherson out of the crate, but then also Mr. Fox is down there with the rabid dog, and Bogus Bunsen Bean are like heading toward them. Like that whole climax, it feels like a great live action set piece. It's just like with these little animated creatures.
The camera turn to when the dog starts chasing Fox is so well done. I can't imagine how many months it took to complete that whole thing just off movement alone. Oh my goodness. Yo, shout outs to stop motion animators. Okay. Kim Kong, you're a legend.
And Gustafsson, R.I.P., a legend.
R.I.P.
Yeah,
Gustafsson, legend.
Yeah, you talked about like the editing. Like one of the ones I love is like there's the image of the TV with Bean on it, and his like
Yes.
son is like watching it with like food on his mouth. Like he's like this gross kid, and he's like, "Dad's on TV," and then it cuts back, and then we get it's the animals watching watching their TV in the sewers, and he
Yes.
just like he cuts it so fluidly, and there's a lot of like really kind of abrupt cuts are just like it's so breakneck, and it just like
Yes.
moves so quickly that I love it.
Yeah, shout out, by the way, that kid is voiced, speaking of weird voice actors, his actor is Garth Jennings,
Yeah.
who's a director known for, like, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the Sing movies, which I believe
Yeah.
Anderson's at least in one of them. He does, like, a cameo.
Oh, really? I hate
Yeah,
that
we-
first Sing movie.
I have not seen Sing. I have not dug into the Sing duology at all, but I'm sure very similar film to like Fantastic Mr. Fox, right? Very autumnal and very like quiet and reserved.
Real dog shit. That first Sing movie. I just fucking hate that movie so much.
No, my girlfriend loves that movie because it actually gave her it was off her first semester of grad school, and it was punishing, and she was kind of feeling kind of low, and she was watching it with her best friend, and there's like a moment in time where it's just like you might fall down the first time or whatever, but you get back up and try
Sure,
again type of
yeah.
deal. Yeah, and then I think she described it as her best friend looked at her like, oh, see, you're gonna be fine. Hey,
That's kind of
yeah.
beautiful. You know what?
Does that mean Sing is not dog shit anymore to you, bro?
No, it still is.
I've emotionally manipulated Bryan like how I Am Sam manipulates everybody who watches it. Just nothing but emotional.
See, this is what you get when you have
manipulation.
Tori on your podcast. Is that you have I Am Sam references on your Fantastic Mr. Fox episode.
I'm the best.
Exactly. Never changed, Tori.
Oh, sorry. I won't say I Am Sam. I'll say what's it? My Sister's Keeper. Another emotionally
much more
black-
updated.
Yeah.
From the same year, like 2009. Like much more updated reference. Great stuff. But yeah, we've been talking for a bit about Fantastic Mr. Fox. Any like final things you want to get to before we like wrap up here, Tori, Bryan, anything?
There's one scene, well, two scenes I want to talk about. One is the Fox and Mrs. Fox with the waterfall in the background, and he kind of says like what's wrong with him, that he has this kind of like need to make everyone like him and think that he's this quote unquote fantastic Mr. Fox, which is a great little bit. But I love that it is this kind of like self-reflexive thing about the type of characters that Clooney plays and Clooney's persona, like playing with that. I really love that, and that scene is really sweet. And then the following scene with Ash, where he's like telling him the story, like, do you know how I first found out your mom was pregnant? And Ash is like, yeah, you told us before. Like he's like knows this story. He's like, let me tell it, please. And he's like, I'm really glad that was you. And it's this really like beautifully sweet little moment between them where he kind of, in his own way, like admits that like I'm proud of you. I'm proud of my son. And that's also it's part of what you were talking about, Thomas, earlier, when a stop motion character cries. That stuff there is really beautiful, and it's this really sweet stuff right before the kind of like final like big climactic stuff where there's all this stuff going on and we're cross-cutting and all this. But yeah, I love that moment for the kind of sweetness that's still there in this movie.
What about you, Tori?
It's a lovably sweet, fun, somewhat violent, wonderfully made movie. I recommend everybody to see it. It needs to be seen at least once. And yeah, I mean, anything we've already, what more can I say? We've been saying this for like the better part of 2 hours already. So,
one thing I want to bring up that we haven't really discussed beyond, like we've talked about Desplot's music, but the needle drops is such like a key thing to Anderson.
Yeah.
And there's so many great ones.
The Rolling Stones one.
Well, the Rolling Stones, there's 3 different Beach Boys songs, which kind of hit in a different way given post Brian Wilson's
R.I.P.
passing
Brian
fairly
Wilson.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I love the opening, like heroes and villains and stuff. Where like a lot of the songs that Anderson picks tend to have like very dark messages. Like I heard heroes and villains initially, I think through this movie, and I'm like, oh wow, what a great like fun song. And then you actually listen to that song, it's like, oh, this is a deeply upsetting,
Yeah.
like really like emotionally complex song. But I just he manages to make like it all feel like so flighty and stuff. Like there's that one, the Old Man River at the very end, I think is very well done. And yeah, the Street Fighting Man one's really great. Is there a needle drop you guys really like?
I like that Rolling Stones one. I think, yeah, Anderson has such a good ear. I feel like he doesn't have as much licensed music anymore, which is okay. But yeah, I do really like that one. Or the Davy Crockett one at the beginning, like which the movie starts with like Fox, like I forget if he's singing or humming it, but yeah, he has such a good ear.
There's also one like when Ash is doing like his diving and stuff, like he falls over, which I love that animation by the way. That like him like scurrying around like his arms and legs before he like lands in the pool, and then Christopherson's like perfect dive, wonderful, and especially that the way that Fox reacts like, wow, can't believe it, what a great dive, Christopherson. But
I'm speechless.
during that particular scene, it's a very low on the soundtrack, you can barely hear it, but it's the song "Love" by Nancy Adam, which was originally used for the Robin Hood from Disney. Like it's the love theme from the Disney Robin Hood with like the fox and shit.
Oh, like the animated. Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's a really deep cut, but yeah, it does really weirdly fit in there, despite the fact that it's like a love theme between like Robin Hood and Maid Marian. It's like, oh yeah, just like it feels like, oh, it's like waning days of summer kind of thing almost. It's like, oh, we're like taking dive in the pool and stuff before fall officially hits. But do you have a good favorite needle drop in here, Tori?
I don't think I've actually ever really listened to the music that's in this movie beyond the film. I wasn't actually aware because I'm not really like big into like the Rolling Stones or anything like that or the Beach Boys. So no, but I will say like the musical choices definitely fit the film. I will look up the soundtrack to actually start listening to it because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, how come I don't actually I love the music in this film, but I've never gone out of my way to like listen to like see the soundtrack or look up stuff. So I'll definitely do that now.
A really great one also that I do want to shout out, the use of the letter dance at the end by Bobby Fuller.
Oh yeah.
Such a wonderful song to end the whole movie on. Or just like it's weird how, despite the fact that this feels so different from a lot of like other animation, this movie does technically kind of have like a DreamWorks dance party ending. It's just not set to like September by Earth, Wind, and Fire or some shit like that. But
it happens like during the film too. It's like they do like, you know, I guess the reference now would be like Fortnite dancing or like, you know, taunting or something like that. But like each like when they go underground and rob from all three warehouses again or farms again, they all have their little dance sequences. They're all doing their little thing. Christopherson's doing like the zombie walk from fucking Thriller or whatever. Like,
my favorite is the Kylie's like robot thing that he's doing, like especially at the end.
I mean, shouldn't Anderson make a musical? Like, doesn't that feel kind of perfect in a way for him?
I agree. I would love, especially almost like an Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
I was gonna say, yeah,
like
very
musical.
Jacques Demy.
Yeah. I think that would like really work for him. But yeah, I don't know. I would like him to do a musical. I'd like him to do another animated movie, despite my reservations about Isle of Dog. I don't know. What would you want to see out of him in terms of an animated movie at this point? Should he stick with stop motion? Should he do like more traditional animation, something like that?
I think he could do like 2D animation, but his style is so suited to stop motion because of the handcrafted, tactile nature of it. Because all his movies are like that. All his movies have these details that are just like so beautiful. You just want to like reach out and touch. I would love to see him do another animated movie, especially at this point. I'd be curious to see what he would do. I don't know, maybe another piece of like adaptation like this, like taking a children's book that he loved and putting his own kind of spin on it. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure like another doll book. I think he could easily do. Like I wouldn't mind his version of something like The Witches, especially after we got a pretty bad adaptation in the last couple of years of that. I think he has like a perfect suitedness to like kind of smooth over some of the edges with Dahl while keeping that kind of darkness. Yeah, I wouldn't mind him doing something like that. I don't know. Could you see him transferring animation styles, Tori? Would you like to see that?
I think if he's gonna do animation again, I think he's gonna do stop motion. I think he's gonna keep the ball rolling on that. I see no real reason for him to like deviate from it from a style that just fits what he does so perfectly, barring like financial constraints. You know what I mean? Like I don't see the CGI animated DreamWorks Wes Anderson extravaganza happening.
I'm sorry. Wes Anderson announced for Kung Fu Panda 5?
Oh no, it'll be the best one by default.
Hey, the first two Kung Fu Pandas is a pretty good movie. I don't know if you guys do that.
No, I love the first Kung Fu Panda. I've never seen the sequels, but I do like the first one a lot. So yeah, but yeah.
But yeah, I guess let's go into final thoughts. And Tori, you kind of said your final thoughts earlier. But, you overall you love this movie, right? Would you say is it your favorite, not just Wes Anderson, but your favorite stop motion movie ever potentially?
Yes, I think I can safely say that. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I don't think don't think I've ever had the urge to like really want to watch like, you know, Coraline or James and the Giant Peach or Nightmare Before Christmas as much as I love wanting to go back to this film.
Yeah, by the way, interesting you mentioned specifically like 3 Henry Selick movies in a row because he was originally supposed to be the animation director on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he left to do Coraline, yeah.
Right, he left to do Coraline, and yeah, it's interesting because he did the stop motion stuff that's in Life Aquatic, like the seahorse and the lion and stuff like that.
I forgot there was animation in Life Aquatic. There wasn't.
Yeah,
that was him then, movie. Right? I had no idea. Yeah.
Wonderful, yeah, use of the anime characters. I mean, I'll briefly just say my final thoughts. This is my second favorite Anderson. I think it's an incredible movie. I think it, like we mentioned, it has the very familiar like Wes Anderson kind of like dollhouse aesthetic, but also it feels very lived in. It has like a respect for the source material without while expanding in really interesting ways, and an incredible voice cast that is just full of, you know, wonderful performances, whether they be from Academy Award winners or people who never did another voice again. It's just an incredible. We didn't even talk about Bryan Cox is the news reporter guy.
I was gonna say, yeah.
We never talked about it, yeah. But yeah, he's like wonderful when he just pops up. I think it's a tremendous, especially like unique entry in like stop motion. Also, really displays what like a director with an incredible vision can do in a completely different medium like animation. But Bryan, go ahead and do your final thoughts on Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, this is just kind of perfect. Like, it might be my favorite stop motion movie. It's definitely up there. It's just the kind of movie that I feel like goes into this rotation of mine of like, I'll put it on anytime I just want to feel good. Because it has that quality to it, even though there's a darkness to it and there's stuff in here that's like really fucked up. It just puts you in such a good mood and puts you in this world where everything is so detailed and just so meticulously crafted. And Anderson just works in animation and it's so gorgeous. And I also think you could definitely, this is a kid's movie, kind of, and you could show it to children, and I think it would 100% work, but it's the kind of thing that also works even like more for adults because you notice those darker elements, you notice that like, oh, Fox is kind of like a thief, kind of, you know, a la Danny Ocean, like there's stuff that really works and that he's kind of playing with, and yet you can just look at this as a like fun little action kind of movie in a lot of ways. There's a lot of like explosions, there's lots of color, it's really beautiful to look at, but if you dig deeper, like there's a real emotional core to it that Anderson really taps into. And like it is really cliche because again, everyone kind of knows his style, but he is just such an incredible filmmaker, and for him to do something this difficult from like a logistical perspective is like is so impressive, and the fact that it really like it really works. And I was watching some of the behind the scenes footage, and you could just seeing him work with animators, like, it's so natural. Obviously he's dressed in like the suits and everything, but like it just feels it's such a natural fit. Yeah, I could watch this like anytime. It's 86 minutes. Like you said, Tori, like everyone should watch this movie. Like anyone, any age range. It's basically perfect.
Yes. Well, let's move on now to our regular segment, Between the Lines. So on every episode of Cinema to the Letter, Bryan, myself, and a guest, if they are so inclined, will bring a movie to the table that we're recommending, either as an alternate choice for like A for atypical animation, or could be just like related to the film we're talking about in some way. And Bryan, you're going first here. What is your recommendation for Between the Lines?
So my recommendation, I'm keeping with the autumnal vibes, but I am recommending a television series. What? Tim Allen noise, record scratch. Just, I'm recommending Over the Garden Wall, which is a TV series that premiered on Cartoon Network. It is 10 episodes. I feel like this is a very popular animated show in the past few years. It has kind of gotten this like really big following behind it. It is directed, all the episodes are directed by Nate Cash, but you have a few different people behind the scenes, like Patrick McHale, Tom Herpick, just a bunch of people who come from this kind of time in Cartoon Network of like Adventure Time, Flapjack, that eventually leads to like Steven Universe and just all these amazing animated shows. And this series follows these two brothers, Greg and Wirt, who are lost in these mysterious, fantastical woods. And every episode sort of sees them encountering these kind of strange and, again, fantastical sort of things. It has an amazing cast with like Elijah Wood, Melanie Linsky is in it as a bird named Beatrice. You get appearances from like Christopher Lloyd, John Cleese. Like, it's an amazing cast, and the great thing about it, it's a Cartoon Network show, so every episode is 11 minutes long, which is just it's perfect for just like viewing. Doesn't have the most similar vibes to Fantastic Mr. Fox, but has the kind of like the childhood playfulness contrasted with a lot of darkness and a lot of like horror at times. I watched this like a couple years ago for the first time, I want to say, and it completely knocked my socks off. I love it. It's one of those things. I was watching a few episodes over the weekend, and I yearn for autumn. Like, please, it's perfect. Obviously, I can't remember who the writers are on this, but they would go on to direct or to write Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio with him to co-write
Patrick
it.
McHale, is the main
Patrick
one.
McHale.
Yeah.
And they really capture that kind of storybook, kind of fable-like kind of quality that I love, and it's my favorite kind of like fantasy. I was watching some of it, but I cannot wait to watch this fall. It is just such a kind of like Fantastic Mr. Fox, this perfect kind of bite-sized piece of art that is so detailed and so rich and has so much stuff jam-packed into it, but you can also just enjoy it as a great just vibe and just luxuriate in all of the setting and just the music. There's dancing frogs. Like, it's so amazing. I just absolutely love this show. Yeah, Thomas, I know you have seen it, and Tori, I'm curious if you have, and if you guys have any favorite episodes or favorite moments from this at all.
For me, it's the episode where they're where it's like the school with the animal students and the cussin song where it's potatoes and molasses.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's been an earworm in my head since 2014. So that's when it came out. I remember DVRing it, and it's kind of like a required yearly viewing, honestly, if you love like the Halloween season, autumn season, all that. I would even say, like, I don't know, two things come to mind. I watched this with Tom too. Halloween 3, also good.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good little Halloween viewing there. Not my choice. As far as we'll get to Tom's thoughts and I'll do my pick after. But yeah, like I feel like shows like that really, or movies like that, capture autumn perfectly, or capture the Halloween season perfectly. So it's a classic show. I'll see people randomly dressed up as the characters, dressed up as like Wirt, with a little teapot head because he's an elephant. I'll watch anything. I'm a sucker for anything that does like the themes of brotherhood, at least to the point where it does it so well. That's probably why I love Darjeeling Limited, just for example. But yeah, I think it's an amazing little show, and it's an amazing little touching show.
Yeah, I recommended this show to you initially, Brian. I remember like we were talking about something. I was just like, "Hey, I think you love this," and you came back just like, "Yeah, I love that shit. That was so great. This is everything I want." Yeah, but I love this, and you should know that it's a mini series. It's only 10 episodes. And like you mentioned, they're all about 11 minutes long, so it's about the length of a feature film. It's a little under 2 hours. And yeah, I think it's a worthy recommendation for sure, and like makes sense for Fantastic Mr. Fox. But I mean, in terms of stuff I love, it's so hard to like narrow it down. But I mean, one character you didn't talk about, Auntie Whispers, who's played by Tim Curry. A wonderful kind of like fragile, especially like this was Tim Curry a bit after the stroke that he had in 2011. There's a bit of frailness, but there's a sweetness there. That character reminds me so much of like a Miyazaki character in particular, like the size of her, and even like the way that she like interacts with everybody. It feels like very Miyazaki-ish. But that episode, I think in particular, is such a great example of the kind of autumn, but specifically Halloween vibe that this has. This is a great like lead up to Halloween thing to watch. Where I won't spoil what the twist is, but what does happen is horrifying, and the animation on the sort of the monster that we eventually get is deeply upsetting. Like, it feels like a show that like I would have loved so much when I was a kid, if I had watched it when I was like very small, but also I would have been fucking terrified of it, and it would have like lived in my nightmares for so long, but in a way that would like fascinate me. It's such a great show for that. It feels like you're kind of mentioning, and even though like this is a great period for Cartoon Network, and I love like Adventure Time, Steven Universe, it does feel like it stands out because it has a bit more of that danger that I think a lot of other like things didn't quite have. Like Adventure Time has, and Steven Universe has that in moments, but I feel like this is like a great example of like a kind of a great thing like kids can access, but also there's a bit of like there's something kind of like we have to graduate to a certain level to get to Over the Garden Wall to a certain extent. But I mean, there's like, especially the Beast character, I think is such a great example of that. The villain of this whole thing, just like this shadowy figure that has antlers and has the voice of this like opera singer Samuel Raimi, that is like so guttural, and so it feels just like this is a creature that exists deep in the woods. And you know you've been, like, lost if you encounter this guy. And the little glimpses we get of him, like, when he's not in shadow, horrifying, terrifying little glimpses we get of him. Yeah, but this is, I think, a masterpiece. I love this particular show. I'm glad that you recommended it. But I'll recommend my particular film here. It is a film from 2007 from directors Marjane Satrapi and Vincent Paronade, I have Persepolis, which is based on the comic that Marjane Satrapi did, the graphic novel, that is very autobiographical and about her life growing up in the wake of the Iranian Revolution, 1979. I think it's such an interesting kind of like coming-of-age story that is from a filmmaker who, like I said, got her start doing comics and had this animated film as her first film. But then really she's kind of like an inverse of Anderson, where she did live-action stuff after this point, like Chicken with Plums, or I think an incredibly underrated movie, that especially in the wake of Ryan Reynolds becoming, you know, a corporate brand of an actor, I would recommend anyone watch The Voices. I think The Voices is such a great underrated horror comedy that I think might be Reynolds' best performance in the movie, quite frankly. It's one of the few times he's stretched himself as an actor in a way that pisses me off whenever he just fucking Deadpool bullshit. But with Persepolis, I think it's her best film. I think it does such a great job of like giving you a lot of lived-in feel of like what her relationship is like, particularly with her mother and her grandmother. I think they do such a great job of like really unraveling a lot of the dynamics between those characters, and the animation is so good. It's 2D animation, and I love how it like really feels like lived in and has like certain great details, like her love of Beat It era Michael Jackson when it was new at that particular point. It was illegal basically to have in Iran. Like just has attention. I love seeing this girl grow up, especially, and really realize like the world around her and how, like, you know, despite, you know, being in the middle of like this event that, you know, as Westerners can feel kind of like distant, like, oh yeah, that happened in the 70s, whatever, it was such a distant place, but having a very like lived in personal story about like growing up, especially at this time, at a time of like such like fraught like geopolitical strife that was going on in Iran. I think it's such a beautiful little movie. It breaks my heart every time I watch it. I think it's incredible, and yeah, it's in French mostly. There is a dub that has a weird cast where it's Gina Rollins and Sean Penn, but even in the French original dub, Catherine Deneuve plays the mother.
Oh, okay.
And I think is like a stellar voice performance, really wonderful. I remember I read the book in high school, which I would be very surprised if my high school still has this book, quite frankly, due to just modern bullshit. But it's a shame because I think that graphic novel really like opened my eyes to like what comics could do and what you could like really emotionally express, like in adaptation, especially from like the comic to the animated film, which I didn't see until much later after high school. But yeah, I think the book is amazing, and I think the movie is like on an equal level. It's one of those rare adaptations that's just like just as good as the source material to me. Have you all seen Persepolis?
Haven't seen it, but I remember the Oscar buzz it got at the time because it was nominated for best animated feature, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what won that year. I know it didn't win, but
I believe it was Ratatouille. Was that?
Okay, yeah, I was.
Yeah,
sadly, but
and hard to argue with. You know, Ratatouille is a great fucking movie.
yeah, no, absolutely. I remember seeing the trailer and I remember like really loving the look and the style, but I never got around to seeing it. I need to change that.
Yeah, I think same. Like this was a movie I knew because it got a lot of like Oscar buzz, and it got a lot of like, it's an animated movie, like international animated movie, which I think in the past few years especially have been kind of like more widely like appreciated. It's one that like I know by reputation, but I've never seen it. But I did want to point out, since we mentioned like Ratatouille did beat it for best animated film. The other movie nominated that year was Surf's Up.
Yeah.
Just a weird trio of movies.
I was about to bring this up. Yeah. It's really in stark contrast. We didn't even mention this, but like Fox was nominated for Best Animated Feature.
Yeah.
And also score, but it was nominated against Coraline, Princess and the Frog, Secret of Kells, and Up, which eventually won. Not a bad crop, I would say. I would personally say.
Which is actually funny. They did a little animated sequence where it shows Fox getting interviewed or about like where he feels about the Oscar season. He's like, "So your life at Kells? What is this? I thought we were nominated with the movies."
Wait, it's like, wait, these are cartoons.
These are cartoons, yeah.
There's also a really good one where it's like what would have been if they had won. There was a short thing where like Anderson voicing his character had the Oscar. It's just like, yeah, I'm accepting this Oscar. And if this didn't make the broadcast for some reason and we didn't win, I'm keeping this little Oscar still. because it means a lot to me.
And he wouldn't get one until those Henry Sugar shorts.
Yeah, which he didn't even show up for.
Yeah,
baller move.
Baller move, yeah.
Didn't bother showing up for his Oscar. But yeah, have you seen this? You haven't seen this one, have you, Brian?
No. I do want to check it out at some point, especially because, yeah, it being about this kind of real event, this historical event, I find that really fascinating, like how you can tell that kind of story in animation, because like as we've said, like you can do anything in animation if you can draw it, if you can create it, and yeah, telling a kind of personal story like that, I think that's really interesting. So yeah, I do want to check it out.
Yeah, especially how it starts there and then it really shows her evolve, like literally coming of age to be a woman. I think they do such a great job, like really progressing her with the character design and the animation stuff. Stellar. But Torrey, what's your recommendation?
Well, I mean, originally I was gonna say Isle of Dogs just to keep it related to what the main feature today, but
I mean,
so we kind of but honestly, I think I'll just go to another stop motion film because Brian did mention Kubo and the is it like 7 strings? Is that what it's called?
2 strings.
2 strings.
Too many
Sorry.
strings. Cut a few of them.
Yeah, cut about 5 of them exactly. I haven't seen Kubo, but I did see, and I'm very sad that this was a box office flop. The one that followed it, Missing Link, which I think is a very lovably made movie. I love the fact that it's the least Zach Galifianakis role ever, and it's just not him doing any of the bullshit that he normally does, or my apologies, any of the cussing stuff that he normally does. And Hugh Jackman with a wonderful performance as well. It's just a nice little movie, a nice little animated film, and it deserved more than what it got when it came out originally.
Yeah, I saw this in theaters. I remember liking it. I think it's like, it's like and it's definitely not like the worst like a movie to me necessarily. I remember feeling slightly disappointed by it, but at the same time, there's still like it's hard to like really be mad at a like a movie, especially when like this one, if you don't know out there, is about like the titular missing link is this essentially like kind of Sasquatch character who Hugh Jackman is hunting after, and the Sasquatch is voiced by Zach Galifianakis, but he's like a very pleasant like little person, and I think it's a really fun movie. Especially, I love the animation on the missing link character, particularly the way his hair is depicted, and it's kind of almost like a scaly thing and whatnot. I think that stuff is like it's so incredible to look at. But yeah, it's a solid Galifianakis performance. It feels more in line with like his kind of stand-up persona as opposed to just being like the Hangover character, which he got kind of stuck in doing earlier in that decade. There's a lot of solid people in it too. Zoe Saldana's also there, Emma Thompson, Timothy Olyphant. Really solid cast, and yeah, I like this one. Brian, you've seen this one before as well.
I have, and like you, Tori, I think this thing is super underappreciated. I think this movie is a delight. I greatly enjoy it. It's just so much fun. It's a fun adventure movie. I agree, Galifianakis is really, really great in it, weirdly enough. And Hugh Jackman is really fun in it as well. It's a really fun use of Hugh Jackman. Yeah, it is interesting because I do think Kubo is maybe like his masterpiece in a lot of ways. But this one I think doesn't get enough love. I 100% agree. And I eagerly anticipate their next movie because I think this was their last.
Yes, they have not done one
6
since
years
Missing
ago.
Link,
Wow.
and they're gonna do Wildwood. I believe is coming out next year.
Yes.
That's the first one in quite a while. But
Very excited for that.
yes. But yeah, it's also, by the way, while we were talking about Oscar stuff, Missing Link was also nominated for animated feature, along with I Lost My Body, How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World, Toy Story 4, which won, and then a massively underrated one, Klaus. One of the great, like modern, specifically like Netflix animation like movies. I think incredible, beautiful movie, but still Missing Link quite good. But yeah, let's go ahead and repeat our titles out there in case anyone wants to add into their watch list. Brian.
Yes, I had the 2014 series Over the Garden Wall, all episodes directed by Nate Cash.
And I had Marjane Satrapi's 2007 film, Persepolis.
And I had the Chris Butler directed 2019 animated film, Missing Link.
But on that note, we're going to start wrapping up here. But we want to thank some people before we get out. We want to thank Burial Grid for our music for the show. Purchase his music at burialgrid.com. Thanks to Michelle Kyle for our artwork finder at MishKyle96 over on Twitter. And thanks to our supporters on Patreon, patreon.com/cinema2letter, where for just $1 a month or $3 for an individual audio, if you want to just buy one particular sample, it's the lowest price you can do to do that because of Patreon fees. You can listen to a great, massive selection of stuff that we've recorded over, the last couple of years, even like the old Double-Edged Double Bill Patreon stuff's there. But recent things would include Marco Polo, the podcast Torrey and I both do, where around this time we would have recently done an episode about my adventures with Superman and Xavier Renegade Angel. Two very different shows. We haven't recorded that episode yet, but I'm very curious to talk about that. Torrey, you'll love talking about Adult Swim stuff over there, right, on Marco Polo?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Anytime, any place. Adult Swim. Get your kids out of the pool. They don't belong there.
Yes. No, they don't. But you can also find stuff that Bryan and I have done. Like, we recently would have put out our double audio review about Fantastic Four. Speaking of fantastic things that might not be as fantastic as Fantastic Mr. Fox. But also, what?
It's a fantastic snore. I don't know.
Oh, damn. Roasted.
Kind of accurate.
Yeah, and we also reviewed Superman on that particular one, and we'll be having a weapons review. I think that might have been out by now, or it's coming out soon. And the big audio podcast thing for August is Bryan and I are having the foolhardy experiment of doing our top 10 films of the 21st century.
Yeah. I haven't even started. So
no.
I'm trying not to think about it, because it is, when you put that much gravitas on it, it does make me a little bit nervous. But I'm excited. It's going to be really fun.
Yes, it'll be very fun to do that particular one. And yeah, all that is there for, like, it's just a $1 a month if you want to be a cineast patron, as we like calling you out there. Really helps out the show and allows us to do fun stuff on the Patreon like that for you all to listen to. But before we get out of here, we got to thank Torrey, our guest. Thank you so much for coming back on. Really appreciate it. You got anything to cuss and promote out here, Torrey?
Well, Marco Polo. It's an amazing little side project that me and Thomas do. If you love Adult Swim, or have been a fan as long as we've been fans, even longer, feel free, throw us some coin, and you'll have full access to the show. All I think we're at, like, what are we're hitting about 20 episodes now, right? Or are we already past?
We're over. Yeah, we're heading toward the 2-year anniversary of the show coming in October, Torrey.
Yeah, we are hitting almost 2 years. Man, we're over 20 now. Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a labor of love. I love doing it, and yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. So, but yeah, other than that, thanks for having me on. It was great as usual.
Yeah, and also we've had fun guests on the show as of recent, particularly like Joey Hamilton, who was recently a guest on the show, and friend of the show, Siobhan Irving was also a guest fairly recently. A lot of fun people that we've had on board. But yeah, on that note, you can find us on whatever hell site you're perusing. If we're there, we're at cinema2letter. And you can find me specifically on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Not the Who's Tommy. That's mainly where I post it, particularly on Letterboxd, where I just log so many things, and especially weird small things. You're like, that's on Letterboxd? Tom watched that? Yep, I did.
Yeah, you can also follow me on Letterboxd. It's mainly where I am. I mentioned this before, but I'm thinking about getting back into Blue Sky, getting my thoughts out there, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. After being heartbroken by Twitter.
You're still nursing some very deep wounds.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
But yeah, you can mainly follow me on Letterboxd, where I'm just watching movies, having a great time. It's just, I love movies. They're amazing.
Yes, and for more of us, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or other podcasting platforms. If you're listening on Talk Film Society, why not listen to all the other great shows that are on the podcast network? And you can dig into the archives on our Podbean main feed for all 10 seasons now of Cinema to the Letter, and also all the old Double-Edged Double Bill stuff. That's all there for you to listen to on our Podbean main feed. And if nothing else, if you can't support us on the Patreon, that's cool. Money can be tight for people, but the free way to help us out is to rate, review, or simply share the show around to give us more visibility. You know, you gotta really help us out, or else we'll be cussing disappointed at you.
And you want to cuss and disappoint them.
No.
You cusses.
I'm not mad, I'm just cussing disappointed. Which is mom for mad. But on that note, usually here at the end of the show, we like to tease about, like, oh, what's, you know, the next episode, or in the case of the end of the season, a next season, what we're planning to do for that. But we have some announcements that we want to share here at the end of the show about the sort of the future, what's going to be happening upcoming. Due to personal reasons, unfortunately, this will be Bryan's last episode as the co-host of Cinema to the Letter. I don't know if you want to speak on that for yourself, Bryan, but just you've had some stuff that you just gotten kind of in the way, and you can't keep up with doing the show as much anymore, right?
Yeah, personal stuff getting in the way. Won't have the time to dedicate to this. But man, what a fun time I've had, honestly. Thank you to anyone who has listened to the ravings of two madmen. And
the long, endless ravings of two madmen.
Fucking 4 hours talking about like Final Destination or some bullshit. Yeah, it has been great. I would love to at some point, if things kind of calm down, do something with Thomas at some point. But also thank you to Thomas for, you know, letting me do this and talking about movies and stuff with me. It's been great. I'm getting a bit emotional. But no, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be a bit emotional here too, Bryan. You came on to this when I was kind of in a desperate state, when Double H Double Bill completely collapsed in on myself for various reasons, both related to myself and Adam, former. You really came in a pinch, and I was just like, I'd talked with you. We'd been friends for a while, and we'd recently kind of reconnected with each other after the pandemic, and had gone to like some movies and stuff like that, and had like really fun discussions. And I just thought like Bryan would be perfect to have a co-host spot. And genuinely, dude, I'm so appreciative of all the time that you put into this. I think it's really been, it can be very taxing. Like you mentioned, we've talked for like so long about so much different bullshit for like endless amounts of time, but I wouldn't trade in any second of it for anything, man. I just think you helped me become a better podcaster, I think, and I'm just glad that I could introduce your voice to other people. I think you're an incredible, wonderful connoisseur of movies. I think the show's not going to be the same without you, man. I really appreciate all the time you've put into it, sincerely.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and like I will also say, like, this has been great to just explore different little pockets of movie stuff, like doing the Bruce Lee stuff and doing the SNL season. Like there's just lots of like little fun like film discoveries that I've had. So yeah, it has been great, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and believe me, there's no animosity between the two of us, despite what the trades might be reporting. That Variety article, that was such a hack job. There was no animosity toward me and Bryan. We're still probably going to be seeing movies together.
Absolutely. And
like having these hours-long conversations, but just like, I don't know, at a restaurant after the movie or whatever. But no, yeah, and I might convince Bryan at some point when his schedule clears up, maybe to have a guest appearance.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, the door's open anytime, for you, genuinely. But I will say this is not the end of Cinema to the Letter, but I think I am going to take a bit of a break here because, just personal stuff. I have a trip planned in September and stuff like that, and I want to kind of like focus on myself for a little bit, so we're going to take a bit of a hiatus from Cinema to the Letter in general. I'm not ending the show, like I mentioned. I have plans, tentatively, to have a new season come out in Q2 of 2026. It's going to be based around a new release that might be, in like the summer season. So if you think about it, Q2 2026, it's not that far away. I do also want to pause here and give a bit of a sorry thing to Torrey, because this is the second time in a row where a co-host has left the show and Torrey's the last guest that I have on.
Dude, I'm
before the host leaves.
I'm cussing cursed ass goods, man. Like I'm like, dude, is this 2023 again? What, did I just go back 2 years? What This again.
Did not plan that whatsoever. Not at all. But
whatsoever. But Bryan,
no.
good luck to I mean I was behind the scenes what you're like up to and stuff, and I'm gonna say it's good luck and you got this.
Thank you.
Yes, but in the meantime, I will say I'm not completely going to stop podcasting in general. I'm too egotistical to not podcast to some degree. So what I'm planning on doing is that on this main feed, at least once a month, you are going to get bonus stuff that will be put on the main feed. I'm thinking maybe some Patreon backlog stuff, maybe something new, especially around Halloween. I have some tentative plans, but a regular season of the show, like I said, won't happen until 2026 again. On the Patreon, I will also be doing at least one new audio review per month, along with Marco Polo. I'm still planning on doing that with you, Torrey. Don't worry. That hasn't collapsed yet. It's only 2 years in, so who knows? That might collapse at any moment. But I'm still be doing Marco Polo with Torrey. And like I said, I'll be doing at least one audio review with somebody. It might be Torrey, might be another one of the cavalcade of guests I've had on previously for Cinema to the Letter. In terms of the movies that we do review on the Patreon, we'll be doing that as a vote, obviously, because usually we'd like to vote for like an episode of the show that'd be an upcoming season, but I'll aim for about 4 movies or so that are coming out in the next month, and I'll have you Cineast patrons vote on which one that we'll cover. We'll at least cover the one that gets the most votes, but I do have reserved the right to at least review like maybe a couple other things if I have any interest in that. I'll say that that will be starting in September. I'll put out the poll for October because, like I said, I have a big trip planned in September. I'm not going to be in the country, quite frankly, for a lot of it. So I'll be doing Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another as an audio review with somebody. I'm very excited about that, and it's the one release that kind of works with my schedule. So that'll be the one for September, upcoming. And then for the poll for the October movies, it'll come out on September 1st, and these are the 4 options I'm going to put up there. The Smashing Machine, the new film from Benny Safdie starring The Rock. Tron Ares, the new film in the Tron franchise, starring... I can't see this person's name here. I don't know who is this person.
A series of question marks.
Barrett Detto.
Yes, Barrett Detto.
Starring music from Nine Inch Nails, actually.
Yes. I love Barrett Ditto's work in Ballast Dyers Club. Wonderful work. But also along with Tron Ares, Black Phone 2, the second film from follow-up from Black Phone, and then Mortal Kombat 2, the new film in the Mortal Kombat franchise. So at least one of those will definitely be covered. Whatever one gets the most votes, but I might cover one of the other ones. Who knows? In a bit of that. So like I said, all you Cineast patrons, you're still gonna get stuff over there, at least the audio review and Marco Polo and whatnot, and I'll have the stuff on the bonus stuff on the main feed. But yeah, the series is not ending, but it's taken a bit of a hibernation. Cinema to the Letter's crawling down underneath the tree, really licking its wounds, maybe getting ready to come back anew in 2026, brand new. But on that note, it's time that we kind of end things, and for such a big ending for this episode, I'm just sitting here in my motorcycle with a sidecar. Torrey's there in the sidecar, and look over there at the mountain. There's Bryan in silhouette, a wolfen creature. We're wishing good luck to. We're putting our fists up in the air for him.
Yeah,
right,
you
Torrey?
can't see me, but I'm pumping my fist.
Damn.
Yeah, look at it. All right, let's ride off, Torrey.